That's the percentage over there. The bottom right.
20%.
20%? It's not bad. Sweet.
It's blinking.
What is
a stream symbol up here? It's never done that.
So the screen just moved and I didn't. I about shit my pants.
Huh?
Oh yeah, it's a little behind up there.
I think it's good. Alright, yeah. Well, hold on. I'm assuming it's good. Hi, everybody. We'll be there in a minute. See if that helps. At least it was up here is good.
You just gonna do the YouTube?
Yeah. He wants to be on Facebook anyway. Everything sound okay?
Yeah.
You like lean in closer or further? I mean, does it?
Yeah, just try to keep it wherever you go.
All right.
Cool. All right. We recording already?
Mhm.
All right, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is the third time. This is the third time's a charm. We were supposed to do a podcast the first time I went to Milwaukee.
Technically, we've already done this one. It's
Yeah,
just
keep
it
it
wasn't
right
good
here.
enough. It wasn't good enough.
Wait, what do you mean?
You
we
had
we didn't record.
no, but we did on 4 for the road. You just didn't like the way some of it came out. Or you had more.
Yeah.
You thought there was better directions we could have went, more content, I guess, to put out. But we only do like 45 minutes. To an
When you
hour.
say it like that, it sounds like it was 4 for the road's fault.
It was Ken's fault. It was 100% Ken's
No.
fault. Which,
No, I what happened was, and I was telling you before we started this podcast, when I was on y'all's podcast, I felt like I didn't prepare enough for.
we never do.
But I mean, like when you're a guest, when someone asks you to do a guest, like you want to, like I want to know that when I ask someone to be a guest on this podcast, if it's something like what we're doing today, that you would take notes, you would come in prepared to have a conversation about said subjects, right? And that podcast was me coming on to talk about certain subjects, and I felt like I thought that I had all this information stored and it was easily accessible in my mind. And when we're in the podcast, it was just like, duh, the whole time.
Am I the first one to come on with actual notes, though?
No, people do that quite a bit. Like
All
a lot of first timers do it. So, but because I mean I made my notes while
It's
ago.
a difficult, not all of it, but some of it's a difficult topic, and to make sure I don't step on my dick, I wanted to be prepared.
Yeah, exactly. And instead of us just drinking and getting shit faced and like just talking for hours in a circle.
I thought about that. Like if I just bring in a 30 rack and get drunk, and then I'm just like sitting here like dropping names and everything else, and I'm like, hey,
Yeah.
let me tell you at fucking 4 for the road, who's a fucking dickhead? It's Ken, but
Yeah. Well, so to give people an understanding of who you are, you're a veteran. When did you go into the military, and what branch did you serve in?
So 2004, early 2004, I started off in the Navy. I was on the USS Saipan, which is an LHA out of Norfolk.
Yeah.
And then I did a couple years on that, and I was like, this shit sucks. And at the time, the Army couldn't make recruiting goals. I don't know if the Army's ever made recruiting goals, but they were offering a blue to green program. People probably know what that is. And they were offering a bonus. It was like 20 grand. It sounds great, right? The kicker is it's like 20 grand spread over like 4 or 5 years. And it's taxed at like 37%. So by the end of it, you get like an extra grand.
Like 14 grand maybe?
Yeah, you get like an extra grand a year by the end, or a month or whatever. No, not a month, a year or whatever it is, right? Because they tax the shit out of it. But I was like, fuck, I'm going to go do that. So I did that. And then I got out in 14. So I did about almost 10 years, like nine and some change, just a shade under 10 years.
Yeah. That's not bad. What, are you from that area, or were you from Wisconsin originally?
Yeah, I enlisted from Wisconsin. I grew up in Milwaukee, which I think is why I have such an affinity for Milwaukee.
Yeah.
I love it. I grew up on 91st in Hampton, so for anybody that's from Milwaukee, they're like, wow, really? You?
Is that a hood?
Yeah, it's nasty. It's over by Timmerman Airfield, and it's just not a good neighborhood. So there used to be a gas station that like somebody would get shot at like once a week, but I mean, I didn't. It was the 80s then. I guess you didn't really notice that. The 90s, it got a little bit worse, and then my mom moved us out. She remarried and she moved us to the sticks.
What year was the Dahmer stuff?
Oh gosh, I don't know, but I mean, in Milwaukee, what we did, we eat people. Wisconsin, we eat people. We had Ed Gein, fucking making face lamps out of shit, and then
you gotta keep this under your mouth.
Isn't it?
No, it's on the side of your. When we end up putting this on the audio version, it'll be you're quiet and I'm. Yeah, there you go. We're good now.
That's how it should be anyway.
Yeah, but no. So I never followed that very much. I've never been into like serial killers very much, I haven't been enough into them. I want to watch all the documentaries like the chicks do on the.
That shit's interesting though. Is that weird that people are into that shit? 'Cause I like it.
I mean, no, I don't think it's weird. I just they were actually talking about this on another podcast. How women tend to be more interested in all that murder mystery, to make a murder and fucking
Wisconsin, Stephen Avery.
So it's like, do you think it's just because you guys get locked in up there? You're like, fuck it, I'm gonna eat that motherfucker.
Oh man, yeah.
The weather just gets so shitty.
You're just like, that motherfucker looks tasty. We want to fucking just dive in. Like we don't just eat ass. Like we eat the whole person. Right? Yeah, you can put that on a T-shirt. Wisconsin doesn't just eat ass.
Oh, that's awesome. That's a good one.
YouTube's taking us down.
No, that's fine. They never like us anyway.
I never noticed that was a Wisconsin thing.
Yeah,
I'm sure there's other people that eat people, but we're. I guess we just always get caught. Right?
Well, I remember the first time I went to Wisconsin there, and I was riding around with Tommy from House of Harley, and he was kind of giving me the quick tour of the city.
Yeah.
And he was talking about how like the city itself wants the world to forget about Dahmer.
Yeah.
Right?
Like all this shit's gone, and
it's not like I don't know if they celebrate other serial killers in other parts of the country where things took place, but it's definitely not something that is like, go see where Jeffrey Dahmer, cut people up and ate them.
We do that with, so if you go up to where Ed Gein's from, it's called Plainfield, Wisconsin. There's not like a monument or anything out there, but like people will go up there and like take pictures where his farm was and like the sign says welcome to Plainfield and stuff. But
yeah, that's I don't know.
How did you guys get credit for that though? Because Ed Gein is supposed to be the basis for Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
I have no idea. Like I said, I don't follow that shit.
Oh. Well,
I don't know. Like,
I guess it's just in our DNA. You're from Wisconsin. Hey, man, it's my guy.
Well, there's just something like it seems like when you think of Wisconsin in the winter, you just think of gray skies.
It makes you want to eat people.
Exactly. It just has that kind of vibe where it's like not all, sunshine and rainbows and shit. You know what I'm saying? So, but no, so you're born and raised there in Milwaukee. That's how did you have family that kind of worked within the, super blue collar town? You know what I'm saying?
Dude, my dad was so blue collar that he left.
For real?
That he left us. I was like 1, 2 when he left. He was like, "Fuck it, dude. I'm so blue collar. I'm out of here."
Yeah.
My mom is awesome. My dad, we have a relationship now, but he just like wasn't. He's never been a dad.
Yeah.
That just wasn't his jam. His jam was blue collar. He worked at Evinrude Motors in Milwaukee, which is a outboard marine corporation. He got drunk and did his thing.
That was his MO.
That was his MO. Like he just wasn't ready to be. He always likes to say like. When I joined, my dad was a Marine. He was a Vietnam Marine. My grandpa was a Marine. I'm sure his dad was probably a Marine. And when I joined the Army, my dad's like, I love all my kids. I'm like, really? Do you? But he's like, I love all my kids, but you're now my favorite daughter. I was like, thanks, Dad. It's like the nicest shit you've ever said to me.
That's got to be rough.
Yeah, dude, we could like look at the table and hide the trauma.
Oh man, but yeah, that's the military. You're in there for roughly 9, almost 10 years. Did you where were you at? Did you deploy out any specific areas?
Yeah, I was so lucky. My time in the Army my time in the Navy was good too. I have friends from the
so
Navy.
You did both?
Yeah. And I stay in touch with some of the Navy guys, but my Army time was it was phenomenal. And that doesn't mean that the Army's phenomenal. Your time is always, whether you're going to school, the Army, jail, whatever, your time is always going to be what you make it.
Mm-hmm.
I was just really fortunate that I had a core group of dudes that we just gelled. I had great leadership, which I think really makes or breaks units in the Army. And it makes, I mean, to individualize. I mean, and I don't know how familiar you are with military terms and shit like that, but
play a lot of Call of Duty, bro.
You know, just at the very minute level of the military, like your team leaders and your fire team leaders, stuff like that. Like if you have bad leadership, like it can just sour you from day one. And so the small time first line leaders, we'll call them, your first introduction to leadership, and then up the chain, it really makes a difference. And I really lucked out that I was fortunate with good leaders. So it made my time in the Army, like there's still stupid shit the Army does. Like it's the Army. It's always going to be that way. But I was just fortunate. So, and I got to spend the majority of my career in Germany.
That's not bad.
So you can kind of, you can just extend and keep going. There's a couple of different infantry units. So there was the 1st ID, which became the 172nd, and then there's the 2nd Stryker Cavalry Regiment in Vilsec. And so I got to just kind of bounce back and forth. And
what would they have you doing? Like you just basically on a base in Germany, kicking it?
I was a mortarman, so I was like dudes that are like actually infantry call me fake infantry, but I mean I enjoyed it. Like, and again, getting a chance as I guess mid-20s at that point, early 20s to mid-20s, to live in Germany, live in Europe for free, like amazing. Especially in the Army, like you live in the barracks, your housing's taken care of, your food's taken care of. Like we could hop on a Europass and on a train. Yeah, I forget what it came out to back then, but it wasn't $40-50 American. And you can go, we'd go to the Czech Republic, go to Prague, and hang out for the weekend and get drunk and go to whorehouses and like all the stuff you want to do in your 20s.
Yeah. How was the culture? Was it a big culture shock when you were over there compared to what you grew up with here? Like just being there. I mean, I could imagine going on a vacation there, but a vacation and like being deployed and being stationed somewhere is way different vibe. As far as time and what your mind's
I think again, it's what you make of it. So like I did 2 deployments. So I went to Afghanistan. I did one in the Navy, but it's like we call it a Wi-Fi deployment. You don't really like do anything serious. But I got a chance to deploy twice with the Army.
Has anybody else even got boats that can fuck with us?
I've never. And it's crazy. Like, so if you ever go, like, we went to Spain. I went to row to Spain when I was on the ship, and I know there's some other ones that are like this, but Spanish aircraft carriers. So I wasn't a plane guy. I don't know what the flight deck. I don't know what it's called, but it curves up for those dudes. Ours are flat, right? Like you see Top Gun, it's flat. Like the Spanish, I think even the Russians are like that. Don't quote me on that shit. But they curve up. I was like, that's just wild, bro. Like you just like, that's weird. Like, what does that look like when you're like running?
I feel like it's like, I guess being American, like you never really think about like, I feel like Russia has ships. I feel like probably China does too, and maybe Japan. But when you think about all like, you don't think about Afghanistan fighting in the air, you know what I mean? Or things like, you know what I mean? Like, it just seems like such a different.
Well, lucky for those guys, they now have our helicopters, so they're really, they're getting practice.
Yeah.
But so we would do joint exercises with other navies.
Yeah.
We had like, I forget what it was, Malaysian Marines or something that would come on and train. So an LHA is an amphib. It's basically a Marine school bus for Marine Corps troops. And so we'd have like other Marines from different countries come on and do something with those guys. And while they would go train, or we'd take them to Iraq, and then like I'd go to Greece. And get drunk in Greece, like, and then we'd pick them back up or their equipment or whatever on the way out.
So you have the worst PTSD of all of them, right?
Dude, the Navy was great. Like, you can learn a trade, you can see the world. I've been to so many different countries.
My wife's brother's in the Navy. He's actually based out of San Diego right now, but I think he's going to New Jersey, whatever's
ship life just sucks. And I was like, I gotta get out of here. Like, so like in Norfolk, like you live on the ship in port. You can go out in town if you want to, but you're not getting paid for that shit. You're gonna live in your troop compartment and you're berthing. It's coffin racks, right? Like it's like it's like living in a coffin, and
it's like jail.
And some dudes love it, and then obviously you make rank and you progress up the rank, and you can move out in town or whatever.
You get conjugals on the ship.
Yeah, you're trying to sneak chicks on and stuff like that.
Fucking dirty ass guys. So anyway, I mean, like I said, that I think that all kind of puts you being in that brotherhood of the military and things like that kind of perpetuated you to want to actually join a motorcycle club. When did you actually get into bikes? Like, was that before?
I was in the service. Like, I was in the Navy. I got my first like non like dirt bike or whatever. It was a Suzuki Katana 500.
One of those fucking dudes.
I think I was like 19 or 20, and I remember like riding it over the if anybody's ever been to Virginia, the Chesapeake Bay Bridge.
Yep.
To go to Eastern Shore, and it was like such a windy fucking day. I was just like, I'm going in the bay.
That thing's a fucking sail, dude.
Yeah,
it's got like 2 little ass holes on the side of the ferry.
I know, you know, everybody has a tough guy story, but I swear to God, I think I came home and parked it for like a month, and I was like, fuck that.
So like in 04, 05, when I first started riding street bikes, our Deep Ellum, our party area, we used to always go down there and just park the bikes and just like wait for chicks to come out of bars and take them on rides, get their number, shit like that. And there would always be this one dude coming through on a Katana, just fucking like with penny loaf, just whatever the style was. Like he was fresh as fuck on a Katana though. And the other thing is like when I was looking for my first bikes and I would open up the Cycle Trader, remember we had to go look through magazines back in the day. The Katanas were always like $2,500. And I was like, oh, this is Suzuki, man. Like that's a cheap bike. I can get one of those. And then like, fortunately meeting other bikers, like, look, you don't want to get on that. That's kind of like, that's the gayest thing you could do on a bike.
I wish somebody had told me before I spent my $2,500, but it was a good learning experience. I mean, it got to the point too where like you could go outside your comfort level and drop it and be like, fuck it, whatever, I'll carry it home. You can carry it home.
Yeah, the other thing is that dude that I was just talking about, he always had a chick on the back of it, so it still worked for women.
Yeah.
It just, you know, we're all doing this for guys, though.
I don't know what it is about the Navy. Anybody that's ever been stationed in Norfolk, you can call me a liar, but we love street bikes, crotch rockets, whatever, and we do the dumbest shit, the gayest shit. Not fun shit. Like, we're just like, I mean, we'll just be like, we'll go down to Atlantic Boulevard, which is like right, I think it's Atlantic or Pacific, whatever it is, right there on the shore, and like we'll just be doing dumb shit all.
I've always felt like that's always been a heavy East Coast thing, like the sport bike thing. I mean, because if you ever like,
but Navy guys are fucking it up.
Yeah, well, I have actually, some of my closest friends were actually from like Newport News there in those areas, and like really early on, I had went to like not Daytona, what was the Myrtle Beach and stuff like that. So heavy with sport bike stuff, and you know,
I love East Coast riding in that area. I think that Virginia has amazing riding.
The cops are horrible.
Yeah, the taxes are horrible. All the inspections and everything else. But like when you just get out on the back roads, if that's your jam, I love it out there. I think it's great riding. You go down to North Carolina, South Carolina, just a great time.
I haven't got to ride South Carolina much. I've ridden in Myrtle Beach, but I mean just up and down the strip kind of thing.
I hate it. Oh, the traffic, it sucked.
I really want to do a deep South kind of trip where it's just like focusing, because I've even found that there's a lot of cool little spots out in Alabama and in Georgia and different areas.
Yeah, I love Georgia. Georgia's amazing.
Yeah.
Shout out to Mercenary Motorcycle Company. They'll put you up. But no, what's that, Highway 17 or whatever it is that you can take from. So like Ken, he lives in Jacksonville. So I'll go and see him, and then from Jacksonville, Florida, I'll take Highway 17, I think it's 17, all the way up the coast to Virginia. You hit some shitty traffic and shit like that, but it's a gorgeous ride. I enjoy it. And you can, like you said, get off on those side streets and just, where the fuck does this go? Yeah,
and that's one thing I like about riding solo is that you don't feel guilty for taking those detours, as opposed to like when you have 10 dudes behind you and you're trying to get to the hotel so everybody can go out and eat and things like that. You feel kind of guilty, like, man, I want to see what that fucking abandoned gas station looks like on the inside. You know what I mean? The weird shit like that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's dope. But the Katana, man. Like, how long was that relationship?
I don't even remember. I actually think that my mom had to sell it for me when I joined the Army. I think I left it at the apartment that I had, and I was just like, fuck it, I'm out of here. And I think this is the dealership or whatever that had financed like one of those pay now, pay here type shit. Yeah. I think they sent a letter to my house. My mom was like, what do you want me to do with this? And I was like, I don't know, can you sell it for me? Like, you have a power of attorney. Just sell it. But I think she sold it for me. That was it for a while. Germany, in the Army and stuff like that, there's like hoops you have to jump through and shit like that. And I just wasn't gonna do it.
You know, it's crazy because a lot of people that were stationed in Japan, before I ever got into bikes, we was into the import cars, and we used to deal with a company here where guys would be in the military and buy like Nissan Skylines and stuff and ship them here, and we would fix them up, put turbos, bigger turbo, like single turbo type things on there. And that was always a big thing, because that was like the only way you'd see a Skyline here is somebody in the military that had one shipped over.
I remember we used to go to Vilsack, which is in Germany, it's a base, and they had a Harley. I don't know, like a Harley dealer. I don't remember what it was. Somebody can correct me, but like a Harley like outpost, and you could buy a Harley there and start paying. They would directly withdraw the money from your paycheck, and you could pick it up when you went to the States. And I was like, God, this is just This is just some predator loans, right?
Yeah. Like some school loans right there.
Like, no, man, it'll be waiting for you when you get home.
Like, well, a lot of dudes do that, man.
We spend our money on all kinds of dumb shit.
You know, you're over there. I mean, my friend that does the contracts always said that when you're in certain places, you can just stack money. If you're in Afghanistan, like, you're not going out on the town but you know, he's like, he's in Dubai, and then he's in fucking Djibouti and all these other places, and he's like, man, there's a fucking party culture here. Like, you can be on, doing your work, but then every night you could be hitting up, places and dropping money and shit. So it's harder to save money when you're out on those 3-month long runs.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I think that the Army, maybe the military in general, does a horrible job of teaching, like,
it's like little basketball players and shit. Like, they got to teach you how to use your money and not,
exactly,
and not get chicks pregnant and married before you go.
If I guess, is that on you? You're an adult. You signed the contract. You need to know how to financially be responsible for yourself and everything else.
How does it work with, like, you can go shoot guns at people, but you still can't drink beer? Can you do that once you join the military?
I mean, I guess so. That's probably like a stateside thing. Most of that. I mean, when I was stationed on the ship, nobody really, they turned a blind eye. Mm-hmm. Nobody really said anything. I mean, you had houses and friends that you went to, or maybe guys that were a little bit older than you, but, were still maybe not quite senior leaders and stuff. Nobody, I mean, as long as you weren't doing dumb shit, nobody really cared. People do dumb shit, nobody cares. But it's like that age old thing. Like, I could die for my country, but I can't drink a beer or whatever. I don't know. And then overseas, like, I mean, nobody, I think, I had a friend that ended up going to somewhere in Japan. I think like that was like the or Korea, one of the two, and that was actually, I heard that they enforced it like hardcore. I was like, I'm probably drunk when he told me. Like, oh man, that sucks, bro. I'm sorry.
Sucks to be you, bro. So basically, how long was it before you got out that you decided you wanted to kind of join a motorcycle club and be a part of that life?
I don't know. I was always interested in it. I had a first sergeant that rode a bike when I was in Germany. And I don't know, he probably like, why is this fucking retard always talking to me about bikes? But I'd always like ask questions and stuff like that. Because I really wasn't like a Harley guy. I was into the history, but I was into the history of all of it. Motorcycles, clubs, like just all of it. And so that was like, at that point. What
do you think put that history or that desire for the history into you? Like, what was the draw to that?
I've just always been a history nerd. Okay. Like, that was my jam in school and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And so it just kind of manifested from there. But at that time too, I mean, we're talking 2008, I guess, 2009, 10, and so forth. Like, there wasn't at that point, there wasn't a lot of social media stuff on it. It was like, so I mean, Facebook was like just starting to get big in 08 or 07 or whatever it was, like there wasn't biker pages whatever on MySpace. So a lot of it was misinformation or just lack of information. And that's kind of on you. You have to go out there and kind of pursue the knowledge, which is what I tried to, like I said, I had that first sergeant that rode, a couple other folks and things like that. But I had a lot of misconceptions that I'd either like read somewhere or thought, you hear a rumor or whatever, and that must be the way it is. So there's kind of like this, being in a motorcycle club will ruin your military career. And that's not true. Yeah. There's certain truths in it, but at the time I felt like it was like a blanket statement for everything, and I was coming up on kind of that, we call it like that do or die time. Like, you're at 10 years, so you might have one more reenlistment, and then after that you're going to reenlist on what's called like an in-depth. Like, you're going to do it until 20 years. You can retire. 20 you can retire. So I was really kind of at that time, and so I was like overly protecting the virginity. Like I really fucked up a lot early. I had a couple of we call them non-judicial punishments and shit like that. And I think because of manning levels where they were in Iraq and Afghanistan and things like that, they let it slide. And then right around the time that I was hitting 10 years, they were like, maybe we're going to like look at retention and how do we, force some people out, or we're going to, they're changing tattoo policies, or they're changing alcohol incident policies and things like that. And so I guess I'd become overly cautious and so I didn't pursue clubs. I just let my misconception be my misconception instead of looking for somebody that could educate me better.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, whatever, I'll wait. And if the passion or the interest or whatever you want to call it is still there when I get out, we'll go down that road.
And this was, what year was this, like 09? Or
So
this is like 12,
yeah, so
13?
this is probably starting in like, 10, 11, and then up until the time I got out, 13, 14.
Yeah. I feel like the club world was popping around that time. I mean, that's height of Sons of Anarchy right there. Every club was going to have a watch party.
I was like, I want in on this fucking cosplay.
Yeah, exactly.
I want in on this.
But I mean, all jokes aside, for people that didn't have a friend or an uncle or a father or a family member or live close to people that were involved in real MCs, it wasn't like available knowledge or available perception to know anything about it, right?
No.
I mean, it's not, how do I word this? It's not like something that you're going to see at every biker event you go to. I mean, at that point, I feel like they started outlawing a lot of patches at certain bike events. So I don't know, to find it, any kind of information other than reading books or watching old movies or, pulling out old Easy Rider magazines. I mean, how would you go about finding anything of good knowledge? And how would you even go about, like, you can't just walk into a fucking club, like a clubhouse, and be like, hey man, I'm interested.
What's going on in here?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Let me get a beer.
Yeah. Hey, Mike let me in. What's up? So not having a dad probably helped. No. Yeah, I know.
I'm here looking for a dad.
Yeah. So first sergeant told me to fuck off. So I need somebody else that wants to mentor me, like who's up for the challenge. But no, I think something that we were talking about kind of earlier before we got going on this is that tribal aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And again, something you and I talked about was there's tribalism in everything.
Mm-hmm. Fucking
PTA moms want to belong to something. Everybody, whatever you're golfing, poker, motorcycles, whatever, you want to belong, and that tribal fit. And I think men especially, I mean, I guess I don't know if women feel it as much, but men especially, they have that need to be a part of something. Yeah, I think it's the same in the military. Maybe that's why vets and the military seem to go so hand in hand. Again, it's just because
MC clubs and military vets.
Yeah, and an identity. For better or worse, and everything is what you make it. No two experiences are the same, and I think the identity portion of it, the military, if they do one thing really well, they give you an identity. I mean, fuck, you wear the same uniform every day. Like that's like you're not changing clothes for work. You're wearing usually the same style of uniform or whatever. Like your job. Like we have unit mottos and this is. Spirit de corps and all this stuff, like they really pump you up. And
is that why, like do you think that's what kind of created those identities that later became clubs back in the World War II and things like that?
Well,
those I don't know what the term is, groups, regiments, or
and so I think it's kind of like the same thing. Like a good club, when you're looking at that and when you are just thinking like, hey, I want to be introduced. I want to introduce myself to somebody as a part of that club. I'm interested. Or I want to, you're thinking about hanging around or taking the next step or whatever it is. A good leader in that club, a good representation of that club will get you pumped about that identity. The same way a good leader in the military will. Like you're going to be Toby Keith as fuck. Like it's just like that's what good leadership should do. And then it's kind of comes down to the mentor and the mentoree.
Yeah.
And understanding the weight and the responsibility of it. If you're a shitty team leader in the Army, that's going to reflect on the people below you. If you're a shitty club dude bringing guys in, that's going to reflect eventually on the club.
You could almost say that the same type of vulnerabilism, is that a word? Ism? Being vulnerable is the same for like you to walk into a bike night with a bunch of dudes that are hanging out and be like, hey man, I follow you guys on Instagram and what you're doing looks cool. I want to hang out versus, hey man, I'm really interested in your club. I've done whatever research is available. I feel like this would be a great fit. I'd love to, I mean, is that no matter what, the individual has to be vulnerable to walk up and make that introduction.
I don't think they'd ever say it like that, but no, 100%. Like, so one thing that we talked about earlier again was I don't speak for any or all clubs. Like none of it's all opinion based, just on experience, I guess, going on 8 years now of different levels of it. But something that like at for the road and stuff like that with the different types of guys that we have that participate or that comment or include stuff or whatever. It's kind of always just been, welcoming, and it's on you to be a good representation of that. So if somebody does come up to you, what? I mean, if somebody's not like, hey man, you look like a fucking retard. Yeah. Why are you going to be, as long as they don't come to you like that, like why do you, the stone cold thing doesn't help anybody. And so nobody's going to learn everything from the internet, obviously. But if, you can get an idea, first of all, if you even want to waste your time or somebody else's time pursuing this, if it's for you, you can learn more about it. Mm-hmm. But again, the fact is you're still going to have to come around and you're going to, like you said, you're going to have to take that first step, that grab your nuts and come talk to somebody. If you're an outsider, some guys had family histories, they have friends, whatever, and they get introduced that way. But for a complete outsider, there's nothing wrong with educating yourself and then coming and talking to. And I guess I don't know. Education sounds pretentious, but like just getting some information for yourself, and then being like, you know what?
There's lots of information out there in different forms. Yeah. Maybe more opinions than facts, but at least give you an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and then it's twofold. Like it's on you to be that man that comes up and says, I'm interested. I want to. You probably wouldn't say like, hey, I'm interested, but you'd hang around. You'd come to a party, go for a ride, have a beer, whatever whatever the steps are.
Hey Jacob, shoot that motherfucker.
Yeah. If you don't hand like a guy interested in your club, if you don't hand him a gun on the first night, I don't know what the fuck are you doing? No, I'm fucking around. But and so that's one of the things that I loved about the page was, especially for me, I'm a fucking nerd. Yeah. And so getting a chance to learn from these different people, like people that participate in the podcast or that writes articles or that comment, they're from all over we have guys that participate that are from Australia that send us stuff and talk to us, and to see those different perspectives is just what I love about it.
Around that same time, that 13, 14, 12 era, the club stuff was getting out of hand, and the club world that I was involved in was definitely leaned way more into the anniversary party aspect, where the club, the whole set was about getting numbers for anniversaries, to have more dues, to create more of a party, to get more money at their party, to turn it into more of a business. And so it felt like when at the same time blogs was coming along online, they were starting to kind of more or less put out some form of education or opinion education, if you will, on club culture. It's like every club has different bylaws, and nobody's bylaws are just posted on the internet for everybody to understand and see, but kind of the norms of different MCs. I believe it was Sucker, I guess you gotta say it with the Ebonics. Sucker Free MC had came along, and I remember following that page because I was in a club at the time, and there was a lot of pieces on there. Was
that the first one? Was that like the first one ever to come up on the interwebs?
That I remember. Yeah. Now I wasn't looking for everything. It just kind of popped up because following on Facebook at the time, following other guys that were in other clubs, like they would repost something or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And then so you find out, and then you read some pieces in there, and you're like, okay, I understand, that makes sense. It gives you a better idea. Some of it was kind of like common knowledge if you've been around the club world. Yeah. But at the same time, we have like the COC here in Texas, the Confederation of Clubs, and then I don't know if it's still going on, but they also had this other thing called the Chain, which was a connection of more the minority set of clubs that was there to kind of help educate clubs as well, and be kind of like that. If you wanted to be an MC, you had to go through the COC, which was obviously ran by the Banditos and things like that. But it was just like, it was wild, man. There was a fucking club popping up. I mean, so many fresh patches everywhere you would go. Fresh vests, fresh patches. And not to be a hypocrite, I was kind of probably lumped up in that category with my club. And it just felt like it was a fucking free-for-all. And there was nobody really caring about the education. It was more like monkey see, monkey do going on. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like it got out of hand here in Texas for a while. You know what I mean? I've been out of it for quite a while, so I don't know what it looks like anymore. But yeah, that Sucker Free MC was a page for people to kind of start getting some kind of insight on it, because there was no other place really to get that information.
Yeah, and I wonder,
You know?
like, doing it, was that kind of, did that give people an idea that, okay, well, I read these articles from these guys, so now I should start my own club because I'm all educated in it? Maybe. I mean, there's.
I think it was a part of it, because between the
So right now, 4 for the Road is responsible for all the bullshit in your club scene. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, that brings up a good point that it could be, because, before, if no one knew how to do it, you had to be a follower.
Yeah.
And if you get like the pamphlet, then maybe you can take a leadership role.
And again, the thing that I've always tried to stress, and I think all of us there have tried to stress, is a pamphlet, reading an article, listening to a podcast, none of it replaces the authentic interaction that you need to go through if you're going to go into that life. Yeah. I think that it's number one, it's just a fun place to record our history, because history it's perishable. If somebody's not recording it, and clubs, and I understand that they're very territorial about their history, and I 100% respect and understand that. But I also think that there's maybe a value in somebody, whether that's a social media platform or something, recording whatever history we can get our hands on, so that it doesn't go away. There's so much shit in the early days of clubs, and clubs have been around since 1900, but there's probably so much shit that's gone away that is just amazing stories and amazing, historical anecdotes that we'll never know because nobody took the time to record it,
document it, or things like that. Like, I've been, the booze fighters here in town in Fort Worth, they actually have like a museum on their club site, or their clubhouse site, right? It's got all kinds of badass shit in there. They do a lot of national events here and stuff like that. And I've had the opportunity to go check it out, and it's pretty badass to see that. But their club kind of operates much different than like more of the 1% side of clubs do. That, to my knowledge, of course, I'm an idiot when it comes to this shit, but I feel like with more of that recorded history, or that more, maybe not put it on social media, because then I don't know, maybe, do you feel like things on social media kind of lose their value, as opposed to if it was just something that was like recorded and written, maybe in a book form, or maybe, because it feels like it's always someone writing a book about something after the feds infiltrated it or some shit. You know what I mean? Nothing
is ever 100% good, and maybe some things are 100% bad, but there's usually a give and a take to that stuff. And so, not everything needs to be on social media. And I hope that, if people want to talk shit on what we do, that's fine. But I hope people would say that we try to, use good judgment on what should maybe be shared and what shouldn't, and all this stuff. And I think there's people out there that will share, they'll shit post everything because they want to monetize it, or they want traffic, or whatever the case may be. And I hope that if nothing else, people say, well, the 10, 11, 12 guys at 4 for the Road and everything else, like, we're not going to do that to sensationalize anything. Like, we acknowledge that shit happens, but we talk about it. But we don't want to make money off of you. We don't want to make money off of clubs. That would be, so I told Derek I'd give him a shout out too. So Derek's on 4 for, and something that he's really good at is some of this video stuff, and that's something that
I watched the recent couple where they've done the.
And I feel like I was like the only guy that was like, I don't want to do video. And it's not because he's not good at it or whatever, but it was like I probably am overly protective of like the virginity of what we're doing, which is it's fucking lame to say. But what I mean is like, I don't ever want somebody to be able to say, well, these guys are doing it to hype themselves, or they're doing it to get exposure. This, like, it should never be about us or our ugly ass faces. Although Derek's good looking, it should always be about the community. Making the community better. And I think that's what the history does. It can make the community better. Again, it's your responsibility, our responsibility, whatever, to share appropriately.
Yeah, well, one of the podcasts, or actually many, I feel like I've heard you and other guys say it about getting ahead of the narrative in a sense of, or owning the narrative. That's the way it was actually said. To where, when you have all these guys that are on YouTube now that are basically trying to sensationalize everything about the motorcycle club culture and capitalize off of it, kind of the opposite of what the 4 for the Road is doing, they're going to always just make it more sensationalized. And same thing with the What was the thing again? The documentary that we were talking about?
Well, the show with that lady, the show is called Traffic, and then she did one on motorcycle clubs.
And where's that available at where people can watch that?
I watch it on Hulu. It's a Nat Geo thing, so I guess wherever you get Nat Geo shows that.
So it's the same thing. It's like,
are we going to talk about her now? I hate that show. I feel like we jumped around a little bit.
Okay, well, we can wrap it back up.
No. We can
your notes are actually typed, so help me.
I blew my load before we started recording and the conversation.
We can keep going on that, dude.
So yeah, if we talk about, we can always jump back and forth, but Traffic was a good example of the narrative of somebody else taking good ideas, or that's not the right word. I'm not phrasing it correctly, but you had these legitimate, awesome clubs, and one or two of the people that were in it, us at Four for the Road, we know personally, and they're just stand-up, amazing dudes. They're just the best representation that if you were like, hey, man, send me some ambassadors for the rest of the world to know about everything there is to know about club life, I would probably pick one of the dudes that was on there. And the way that she did it and the way Nat Geo did it, and again, I always look at stuff as like, if I'm a critic, or if I'm going to talk shit to Four for the Road or anybody in motorcycle clubs, like, what am I going to say if I'm that dude? And I say, oh, well, it's Nat Geo. You should have fucking known what was going to happen. Okay, maybe. But the late Maria, whatever her name is, she had an opportunity to, fine, if the Sons of Anarchy sensational stuff is going to get views, fine, whatever, we understand that. But you also had a chance to humanize it. There was guys on there that were so fucking articulate, and I think they can, what's the fucking word I'm looking for? But they can like push back on the narrative of the big dumb biker and his cut or whatever, because the way that they said things, the way they articulated themselves, the way they expressed whatever the topic was really good. Yeah. And then Nat Geo, whether it was her, whatever the producers, they backplay it with like sinister music, and they use like a drone shot of the Badlands or something like that to like represent violence or some shit, and it just decay. And it made it cornball. It made clubs look bad, and it was ridiculous. I think like their big end piece of the horrible shit that clubs do was some guy with some fucking bunk weed in his backyard in California. Like, get the fuck out of here. And it's legal. And the thing that I guess really pisses me off the most about that, and I feel like it's one of the better podcasts that we've ever done, but if you watch any of her other shit, she humanizes, like, I don't know if sympathy is the right word, but she at least humanizes or shows another light to the subjects that she's covering in whatever it is, smuggling, meth, cocaine, whatever. I don't feel like she did that at all with the bikers, with club guys. It was just like, well,
like with the concept of humanizing, it was kind of like that conversation we had before the podcast, how I was telling you how I've been going down this Wild West kick and shit like that. Yeah. Well, Billy the Kid was this awful dude that killed and stole and all this shit, but then he was a product of his society and his opportunity, and that's what made him. And so everybody humanized him and made him a hero because he dealt the cards that were handed to him, and that's kind of
isn't that the quintessential outlaw thing to say? Yeah. Like, I love that.
But so I guess what Nat Geo was trying to do in that piece, and I haven't watched it yet, but just pissing in the wind here, is they maybe looked at it like people chose to be bikers or be in bike clubs versus the society that some people have to grow up to be, that get forced in the cartel life and things like that. Maybe I'm trying to be devil's advocate a little bit. I mean, I can see that, but I don't agree with it, but
Yeah, and so you could say like in these Latin American countries or whatever, there's less opportunities where not everybody, but more people decide they have a lot of other opportunities other than being a biker. And I think a good club dude probably lists, or you should anyway, to somebody that's interested in your club, you probably list all the reasons why they shouldn't do it. And if they still come around, then maybe that's a good dude. That's somebody you can mold or work with or whatever the case may be. But yeah, maybe that is why those folks in that arena have maybe less opportunities than we do for the most part. I don't know if that could be something. It's got merit.
I mean, it's just something that popped in my head while we were talking about it, but yeah, I mean, I listened to that podcast, man, and like I said, I wish I would have re-listened to it again today because it brought up so many questions that I wanted to kind of jive or jump into with you, but fucking work.
And I feel like with that, she has the ability, the platform to set bikers back not as a community, but I guess what we're trying to do, again, controlling the narrative and encouraging people that are in these legitimate motorcycle clubs to share a little bit more. Now, you don't have to share everything, but share a little bit more so that it's preserved or people can learn or whatever the case may be. You know, the people that were on the fence about that, she just fucking knocked them back 40 years on whether or not they're ever going to share. And because they saw how that turned out. And so I can come and I can tell you all fucking day that we're different, but you don't know until you take that chance. And why the fuck would you now take that chance when, you know, the majority of the time TV shows have told us that, you know, we're not going to portray you accurately.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like you look at all those, it's like any type of TV show or docuseries that's on bikers is always about some sinister type bike club, whether it's America or Australia or something like that. Outlaw biker and blah 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 and just all this crazy shit, right? But would we be interested as people, as consumers of that type of content? Would we be interested in anything else?
Yeah, I think
biker related.
Like we talked about in the beginning, I think we just love murders, mysteries, and we love people that eat ass or eat whole people. Like, we just love all that shit. You know, and I guess, you know, I think that for what it's worth, and I think people that aren't in clubs, or maybe if they have a negative view of clubs, they kind of laugh at it or whatever, think it's ridiculous. But I think guys that get into bike clubs and are good representations of it are kind of a throwback to, I don't even know what era, maybe the Knights and things like that, or that far back. But you know, there are different things that maybe the everyday guy going to the grocery store or the gym maybe doesn't think about. You know, a guy in a motorcycle club and how he shows class, or not letting somebody take your class or something like that. That matters to us. That matters to them, and it's important. And I think some people would laugh at that. And to a good club dude, you're like, no, that's everything to me. Well,
I think maybe sometimes it gets kind of blurred lines, because to me, even before, you know, the whole like allure to the club isn't just because of we own motorcycles. It's like that feeling you have when you're smashing across the desert with your friends.
Yeah.
And you're coming into this small town and you're hoteling or camping for the night, and you're trying to get beer at the gas station, and you're going to sit in the parking lot of the hotel and just get fucked up and talk about that day or around the campfire. At that point in time, when you're looking at these dudes around you, you know, like you're like, fuck, man, like, that to me, like that bond, that situation, you know, it's like, fuck, dude, let's go get matching tattoos. You know what I'm saying? Like you just feel like this love for them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, not to be gay or anything like that, but it's like the aspect of appreciation to share that journey, even if it was just that day, or it's a week long, or if we're running across the country, whatever the case may be. You know, to me, I think that would have been the allure to, like, hey man, like there's 6 of us here, let's start a club. You know what I'm saying? But 15 years ago, I probably was doing that shit. Like, hey man, let's make this something, you know? Yeah. And now I've kind of got to the point where I'm like, I just want to appreciate this for what it is. It's good friends riding bikes across country and counting on each other the same way that club members count on each other as well. But I don't know where I was going with that. But.
Well, and I think we've talked about it before. Maybe this will help you think of it. You and I have talked about it, and I told you before, I almost wish Jaden was here, because I feel like you are, because you've been in clubs, I feel like you're more measured maybe than in some of how you phrase things that you want to say negatively about clubs, or an argument against clubs. I feel like Jaden will just be more off the cuff with it.
2 more. I'll be good. 2 more of these and I'm good. You know how I really feel about clubs?
Yeah. And you know who?
How far from the kitchen are they?
You know who I specifically hate? Fuck, now I lost my train of thought. But so I think, you know, something that you have always talked about and brought up is like, well, you have the best part of clubs with the group of friends that you ride with.
Yeah. But the thing that I've always tried to articulate was that the group of friends that I have was just as hard. We all more or less prospected together, even though we didn't put a label on it. We all kind of,
you have standards that you hold them to.
Yeah, and you know, and I think that I did I was probably much more vocal about letting them
right
know.
now, are you the president?
No, I'm definitely not. I feel like I'm a leader in certain aspects of our groups, but then other guys in our group take on that role when the situation is in their wheelhouse. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm a good navigator when we travel. Like, that's what I'm good at. I'm very good with maps. I have a good sense of direction. So when we travel places, I'm usually that leader for there, but I'm not like the leader of all aspects of our club. You know what I mean? Like, we have strong suits and so many different men that hang out with us, and they kind of take the lead.
That's what makes up a good club, too.
Yeah, I agree. You know,
and so I think, I don't know that group riding, that group friendship, that Three Musketeers vibe, I don't think that that's required for somebody to say yay or nay on clubs. I think that no matter what you're doing, you should have somebody that or a group of dudes that you'll take a fucking bullet for. I don't want to unnecessarily get shot for somebody, but there are definitely guys in my life that I would 100% want to have their back in every situation in any way that I can. And I think that there really is something tribal and special about having a group of dudes that half of what is in your wallet when we're on the road is mine is yours. So come to my house, it's yours.
On that note, I wanted to chime in on that. There's two things, right? Because I can meet you at a gas station. We can go ride around together today, and then if someone came at you the wrong way at a bar, I would just see red and we'd be fighting I'd fight for you, and I don't know you just because that connection. But the way I look at it is how many dudes would actually leave their house to go fight for you? No. Like, if we're all hanging out at the bar and somebody gets fucking cold cocked or someone gets a little out of line, we all see, we've been in the same situations before. We just see red and it's like time to fucking stomp somebody. But if they saw red and something happened and they called me, am I going to leave the house to go be a part of that premeditated situation at that point? So to me, that's like a different question. Like, there's certain guys I would definitely leave the house for no matter what.
And I think
certain guys I'd be like, can you talk them down?
And I think some of the
Yellowstone's on, bro.
Yeah, 1883. I think every club, anybody that tells you that dude that's going to leave their house and run out the door and all that shit, if their entire club is made up of that dude, is lying to you. A good club will have majority of those dudes in it, but fucking there's dudes that are going to stay home when you call them.
Yeah, but so the other thing is, like, the same way we would curate, for lack of a better term, the men that hang out with us.
You got to call the fat once in a while, right?
We won't, like, a dude. We've gone on trips with a guy that was like fucking a hothead. He was fun. He was cool. Great dude. But the older guys of us were like, that dude's going to get us in a fucking either a brawl or a gunfight or a fucking, whatever. So it was one of those things where, like, we probably won't want to be around this guy as much because of his personality in public places. Kind of puts us in more vulnerable situations where we would have to be more aggressive. And that's not why I'm riding my bike. I didn't ride my bike cross country to get in a bar fight provoked by one of us. You know what I'm saying?
And
as opposed to...
And I suppose maybe, in your setting or civilian setting, like, if that dude is that liability, maybe you don't ride with him again. Or maybe you fucking leave him. Maybe you leave his ass where he's at. I don't know. If you've decided if that guy is either... taking steps towards becoming a part of your club or trying to, or is already a member of your club, like, you're already bound to him. And it's not like some sort of like, I'm honor bound to defend him because he's my brother. Sure.
Yeah.
We all say that, you should have your brothers back in public no matter what, and then chastise them in private. That's a general rule. But, I think that no matter what, it's a representation of you because now you're wearing this, you're flying the same flag. And especially when you're out places, people that aren't involved in motorcycle clubs may not differentiate. They see one dude, it's all of us.
Yeah.
And so you do have to be mindful of that. And again, I argue all the time, the onus is not on the general public. It's not even on guys looking at coming into your club, hanging around, coming to your parties, whatever. It's always on you. And I think that there's dudes that don't like that answer. But it's always 100% on you. You're the fucking gatekeeper. If you let trash in, you're going to get trash out. Yeah. And what you allow and what you allow members to do and things like, obviously there's situations that you just can't help it, right? But again, in this instance where somebody's maybe a liability or whatever to the group and you're allowing him to represent your organization, that's on you. And again, it comes back to mentors, leaders. It comes back to I guess rites of passage and testing folks and again that hang around in that prospecting phase or that probating phase and really making sure that it's done right. And just like you, I'm sure that when guys come and they want to be a part of the crew or ride with you guys or whatever, there's probably steps or shit that you look for before blessing off on them to do it. I think that clubs are the same way, maybe just at a more extreme level. Because, we say guys are going to get hard, right? Like, it's that ride or die. But, and everybody's dick goes up.
This is my brother over here.
But in a real sense, it is. Because if I crash on the side of the road with you, are you going to fucking freak out and just take off? Are you somebody that's going to know fucking can you run a tourniquet and get my leg to stop bleeding or at least, cut it off?
I hope we have service.
Can you, are you going to go and can I trust you to go to the nearest gas station or whatever the case may be if we don't have service? If I break down, whatever,
Some of those are common courtesy things from being a biker. Like, you don't want to, some other random bike on the side of the road, you pass by him, like you're an asshole if you don't stop. You know what I mean? Just check, right? Same thing. It's like the dude goes down, like we definitely, unless it's a hood ride. Saxon went down on the hood ride. We just like, you good? Cool. But, yeah, I mean, at the same time, I think it's common courtesy amongst bikers just to do that in general. No. You know what I mean? But, I mean, if you're hanging out with a dude that, like, you wreck and the dude just leaves, like, that's a personality trait that I think that is, like,
Even, and I think, like you said, some areas or clubs or whatever, like, I'm not, my fingers aren't in everything, but certain areas or whatever in anything, they want numbers, they want growth and things like that. And, I think that if you care about the culture in general, not just your specific club, but if you care about the culture in general, again, it comes back to being on you to saying, hey, maybe that dude that freaked out could be a great brother one day. Today's not his day.
Yeah. Well, to that same topic you just brought up, like the numbers thing, like I said, in the time when I was involved, it seemed like the narrative was anniversary parties and was getting the majority of people to come to them because then that's, $10 a head coming in the door, helping that club kind of do whatever they're going to do, right? Well, when you're trying to get numbers in your club, like, dude, I've seen Craigslist ads for people trying to get people to join their bike clubs.
Yeah.
I think it was actually on like Sucker Free MC. It's fucking hard to say. A long time ago, like people like reposting that type of shit. And I've seen it personally too.
Yeah.
And there's no way you can get quality that way. There's no way you can get someone that's actually, just I don't know. I don't know if you can get a real, brother, if you will, through those type of means. Like it's got to be an earned experience, if you will.
Yeah.
Maybe you can get one after, but like, I don't know, back pages to get bike clubs together, basically. Like, that's weird.
Is back pages still a thing? I thought they took that down.
Yeah, well.
Didn't everybody go to jail or some shit for that?
I don't know. Let's go.
But yeah, and so, you kind of come back to the Craigslist thing and the people post Facebook ads looking to start clubs and things like that. Yeah, and
are the guys starting those things saying I'm looking for members?
Yeah.
Are they even the kind of people you would want to have in like an established motorcycle club?
Probably not, but maybe.
Yeah.
And I think again, maybe it's just me, but I always say before we're like mad at somebody else, like what are we doing to control the situation? Like if this guy on Facebook is looking for members and that ruins your whole fucking day about motorcycle clubs, or if you're a club guy and that ruins your whole day, or like this is the biggest affront you've seen and bike clubs are trash nowadays because of this shit, like it's on you. All right. Like this guy on Facebook has probably got 5 people talking to him or whatever, and it's never going to leave their garage or something like that. And if it does, if you're not allowing them at your parties or your events, or they're not being accepted by the community, then who gives a fuck? Go cosplay wherever you want. Like, it's not the biggest atrocious. I don't think that's the right word, but it's not the biggest affront to clubs to have somebody doing that on social media. And like I've said before, clubs pre-internet, they were in Easy Rider magazines and stuff like that. So there's always been some sort of public-facing way to interact with clubs. It's just evolved over time, and it'll evolve 10 years from now, and 20 years from now it'll be different, and so on.
Well, a big difference between like pre-90s and after the 90s was also that, clubs kind of, maybe you can attest this with the history that but that was the majority of the culture of motorcycling, was club-based things and, you know, that type of stuff. And then the custom world kind of really started to kind of open with the Harley shortages and with the movie sensationalizing certain types of bikes, you know, Brian Bosworth and fucking, you know, Harley Davidson, Marvel Man, like all these things, like making these bikes look cool to the biker or the doctors and lawyers of the 90s. That brought a whole nother type of biker into the spectrum that prior to that, it felt like bikes were the dirty guy thing. You know what I'm saying?
So let me ask you a question. As somebody that's been in the industry, has that kind of thing been good for it? Because I think, you know, club guys can bitch about it, but without that doctor and that lawyer getting into it, do we see expansive Harley dealers or the number of bikes that are in the market or aftermarket parts and things like that? Do we see those options and those platforms as expansive as they are now without somebody to flood that market with money?
I'm totally down for all those doctors and lawyers coming in, 100%, because that created an industry, a viable industry. There was plenty of builders that paved the way, Ness and fucking Denver's Choppers and fucking, you know, just, I can go down the list of all these amazing biker shops and chopper builders and brands that have came up in the 50s, 60s, and 70s and made it through to the 90s even today, right? But to be to give all the opportunity to the smaller guy in the garage building, you know what I mean? Like, it made the chopper boom of the late 90s and early 2000s, like that gave us an influx of money that I think some of us are still living on. Some of our industry still has some of that stimulus. Sorry, fucking came out the wrong side of my mouth. We're still living off that stimulus that was kind of brought into that. I mean, we had cigarette companies dropping thousands and thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars, marketing and advertising at rallies and things like that, creating events that made bikers or builders want to build bikes to go get $25,000 checks at Sturgis in multiple locations. You know what I mean? We don't have that anymore.
I mean, when I came home from Afghanistan, I blew my entire savings on a motorcycle, so I get it.
Well, I mean,
I was responsible as fuck. I was like, am I going to pay child support or get this bike? And I got the bike.
Yeah. There you go. You had the Carhartt hat on earlier.
Hey,
so.
Look, my dad.
You see that meme lately with the Carhartt hat where it's like, don't wear a Carhartt hat unless you have a DWI, you're late on child support payments, and some other, like 2 other things in the little 4-banger.
I thought about like wearing shorts and a T-shirt, like coming from Wisconsin, and then just a Carhartt hat, and be like, we're fucking
hot.
here.
Yeah. That's cool. No, there's been so many things. It's so funny because the motorcycle, everything motorcycle, it's 100 years old or 120 now, roughly 100 with Indian, right? No, wait, 100.
No, wait,
22.
yeah, 121,
22, right?
1901 for Indian and 1903 for
121.
Harley.
Yeah, so you know, we have this years where a lot of it's pretty well documented in a sense. Maybe not the smaller club things like we were talking about, but you can kind of see if this was a graph of like involvement with the public, like you can see where it started booming when bike sales were happening, when they dropped, all this type of shit. And you can kind of tell, you can look back at pop culture and what happened in the movie world or the TV world, or, you know, was there a big influx when HA was fucking at the Rolling Stones concert back in the day, you know, was it Rolling Stones, right?
Yeah, Altamont. Yeah, there's a documentary on that.
Yeah.
Cool,
So like their involvement with Hollywood back in the day, did that not help inspire clubs to start in the late '60s and shit like that?
No.
You know what I mean? Like I mean, I wonder. You know, so how, as much like we were talking about earlier, as much as people like to clown on Sons of Anarchy, like maybe that was the influx that, you know, people needed to get their feet with, or gave them a little insight of what it's like to be in a club. Even though it's not factual 100%, there's still some, you know, resemblance, if you will, to some of that.
And I wonder if and just because I'm not involved in other arenas or whatever, but I wonder if there's other aspects and things that people are as resistant to change as I feel like the motorcycle world as a whole, as clubs especially, you know, we're very attached to our history, and we're very into how things used to be. And I think evolution and change scares us, if that's the right word. So many people, I don't want to like generalize and say everybody, but so many dudes talk about, motorcycle clubs or the Harley scene today or whatever. It's not like it was back in my day. Well, if the dude's fucking, I don't know, 60, his day was, the 80s, right? Essentially, his heyday would have been the 80s. Mm-hmm. Fucking motorcycle clubs in general have been around since 1900. So there's a whole 80 years before your favorite generation of motorcycling that you're talking to me about. Mm-hmm. But based on just the fact that the 80s was your favorite period, all forward-going motorcycle club happenings or motorcycle in general shit is all crap. Yeah. Because your favorite era was then or whatever. Like, well, what about the eras before that? What about what's going to happen 10, 15, 20 years from now? I think we're just because we're so history driven and because we're so tradition bound, change is hard for us, and I get that. Yeah. And some change is absolutely shit, and some change is needed and good. And finding, I'm not smart enough to find that balance. Your club needs good leaders to help you with that challenge of evolution.
And to present that to the rest of the club to actually make changes. I
hate the dudes that are always like, clubs are shit nowadays. It wasn't like it was in the 80s. Like, do you know what happened in the 80s, bro? Like, clubs are way better today. Like, you might have access to information today that you didn't have in the 80s, but if we had fucking Instagram in the 80s, you'd be like, good God.
Yeah. It's a war zone out there. Yeah, so that's a good point because, we all kind of look at our now as in like, oh, that was great. Because there's things in my life that I even look at where I'm like, man, I missed 2007. Right? Like, fuck, it was so much... You know what I mean? It was this or that, or fuck, I missed 2019. Before all this crazy shit, right? So there's like, that's a good point you brought up, man. There's, it's perspective of everything. You know what I mean? And I've in almost 20 years of riding, I'm 18 years now. I've had my early groups that I rode with. Not that we were clubs, but just people that they're the guys that I called whenever, hey, I want to get out tonight. To the guys that I was in a club with, to other clubs that I rode with. I mean, it was another club that inspired me to travel. They invited me on a bike trip. No. You know what I mean? And that's what got me like, fuck yeah, I wanted to do it already, but his invite, the president of that club inviting me to go on that trip and treating me like a member of their club that whole time was an amazing experience. That's
what a good leader should do in anything. There's a time to treat somebody like shit. When you're bringing them up and seeing what they're about, but it's a I don't know if it's the right word, but it's an educated trial that you're running somebody through. You're it's a very delicate thing, military, club wise, anything in life, to break somebody down and mold them back to how you want them to fit your organization. And it can be abused, and it can be done so bad. And like what you're explaining sounds like a start to exactly how it should be done.
Yeah. So now let me pit this to you, because the way that I look, if I would say I'm looking for more friends to bring into our fold, I'm looking for people I like to surround myself with people that inspire me, right? People that are doing well in life in a place that I want to become. You know what I mean? My life is very, on the outside looking in, can be envied because of my role in the motorcycle world, things like that. But I look at like the guys I ride with and the way they are with their family, the way they are as businessmen, the way they tackle their goals and dreams in life. And I use those as inspiration, and I want to surround myself with those type of people. Right. No. And, so pretty much all my core group of friends are doing rad shit in their own spectrum of life. And I like finding people to bring into that mold that's also doing something on that same thing to where it's inspirational to be around them. No. So it's not that I'm looking to bring people to my life for me to change them into me. I'm almost looking for people to come into my life so that I can grow and evolve. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, again, I don't know if that's I don't know if that's feds. I don't know if that's a man thing, but we look for that, and we first of all, we want to learn from that, and then we want to, I guess, get to a point and achieve to where we are that for somebody else. Like in my area where I kind of came up and cut my teeth in club world and things like that, I'm fortunate that I guess some of the more senior guys or head guys, or whatever you want to say, the people around are just amazing. And I have the utmost love and respect for them. And they're the kind of dudes that just inspire you to like want to run through a brick wall for no fucking good reasons. And again, I think to outsiders that sounds stupid. But if you're in the war, if you're into anything, if you're into something, having those type of leaders and mentors around you is it just builds you up. And then you aspire to one day either get to that level or whatever else you're pursuing, be like that and emulate that as you achieve that stuff. And so that's where a lot of my respect for the culture comes, is that I'm so fortunate to have just amazing dudes to mentor me, to bring me up.
Yeah, that's like one of those things. Like even whenever I did the Four for the Road podcast, we were kind of being, I don't know how it was. It felt like it was set up as in like I'm the guy that's got all the club, all the benefits of a club, but without all the restrictions.
You are
right. And we can talk about that in a minute.
You are.
But at the same time. Oh, man, I forgot where I was going with that.
You are. You have all the benefits, and I would argue that, and I think that I do when people ask us about club stuff, if they come up to me or somebody else or
what do you think the main thing is that my version of bikerdom has? We're making up words here.
Every podcast,
huh?
Every podcast, we got a new word.
Yeah. Word of the day, bikerdom. What do you think that we have as far as like the Dragon and the FASTLIFE crew guys and all this stuff? What do you think that we have that clubs don't necessarily have that's the same? You know, whether it's our ability to travel.
Yeah, I think it's expectations, and I mean that in a respectful way. Is that if Jaden can't go on a trip or somebody else can't go on a trip, it's probably not a big deal. Mm-hmm. If they can't go on a couple of trips, they're sick, life, work, family, whatever, that no big deal. Depending on what level of motorcycle club you're looking at, that can become a big deal. Mm-hmm. There's mandatory things that you have to make. Your kid's got a basketball game, well, that's you're shit out of luck, and you're going to be at that event because this is what you committed yourself to. This is the life that you wanted to live, and these are some of the sacrifices that you have to make. I know amazing men that can balance the shit out of that, but they still miss stuff. And if you're not as awesome as they are, you're gonna fuck up that balance. And the punishment there, I don't know if punishment's the right word, but now you're missing things that that are mandatory for you. So maybe there's some sort of repercussion status. Maybe you have to you pay a fine. Maybe you have to pull some sort of duty. Maybe you have to prospect again for a little bit or something like that. Like those are extreme cases, those are just examples, but those are things that the average rider, if they miss an event, if they miss something, if they don't show up, if they don't answer their phone, there's no repercussions for that, minor or otherwise. For the serious club dude, there's going to be either no choice and they're going to go, or there could be instances of repercussions if they don't go or sacrifice. I think people hear the word repercussions and like they think somebody's kicking in the door and beating the shit out of you. And that's not what I mean, but I'm just saying you agree to sacrifice some things in your life to be dedicated to that level of club that you're pursuing. And dudes need to seriously think about that. And again, I put it on the club as a good leader. You need to make sure they know to seriously consider that before they step up to this life. You lose so much more freedom than you gain. And that's something we've always said at Four for the Road is, you get so many amazing benefits and things to being in a club. It's so fulfilling, but you lose a fuck ton. And one of that is I'm a biker and I'm about freedom. Not in a club, you're not. You're not going to just take off by yourself and go for a ride, a serious ride, without telling somebody. There's calls that have to be made. There's chapter meetings you have to make. Maybe there's you got
there's lines you will not be able to cross.
There's you want to go because you've never seen the Grand Canyon and you're gonna go, and all of a sudden something comes up and we got to go the opposite direction. You have to go, and that trip's canceled. And those are the things that the average dude doesn't have to consider when they're getting on their motorcycle trip. And again, you get a lot of great things in return from club life, but you're not free. At all.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to think about it, use the basketball game as an example, and it feels like a great club or a great group of friends is like if we had a trip as a group of guys and we had to do this, and on the trip I'm like, man, I fucking my daughter had a soccer game and we missed out on it. Then most of my guys like, why don't we all just mob up to one of our soccer games when we're back? and just like all show up and support, like overwhelming, you know what I mean? And so I feel like there's probably ways that like
clubs do that.
Clubs can find another way to make up for their individual members and the sacrifices they make to show their appreciation for that.
And
sacrifice.
I think the best clubs and the best dudes, and even within clubs,
that comes with good leadership.
Yeah, there's probably chapters that are better than others and things like that, and that absolutely does happen. But you first need to make that. But it's not always going to happen, and so I think you need to prepare your family or yourself or whatever for those sacrifices. And if you can, I always say the sacrifices are always going to be greater than what you get in return, but the weight is going to be different. And so if what you get in return can outweigh those sacrifices, then go for it.
See, the crazy thing on our end, like maybe my group of friends in specific or in general, there might be more than like some other groups of friends around, is most of our chicks are fed up with our shit.
I think that's universal. Like, even if you golf, these chicks are like, I'm fucking tired of this retard.
I mean, you can ask Jaden. Jaden's like, there's, and I'm the same way.
Is his wife sick of his shit?
Oh yeah, big time. But
who's seen his balls more lately, us or
probably
all of Instagram?
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite things I've ever posted on For the Road is that there was a picture of a club in the '60s doing the exact same thing that he was doing, and so I was like, the more things change, the more they stay the same, and it was a side by side of that, and
that's fucking awesome.
I love that post.
I liked it. I like at House of Harley when we were having that party, like just this chant from the other side of the room, pull your balls out. He's like, oh, me? Hell yeah. It's like, didn't hesitate.
Yeah. It's like he knew what they were talking about.
Yeah. But you know what? He deals with it. I deal with it. All of our friends deal with it. Like, I think it's because they see, like, our old ladies see us traveling the country, seeing a lot of these places for the first time. And they have to capture a lot of it through social media because we're posting on there, or we do podcasts and we recap it for 3 hours. Like me and my wife,
6 hours. Yeah.
Me and my wife aren't going to do a recap podcast on our trip to Milwaukee together. Like, what'd you love about it? And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, what do you want to do on this podcast? I don't know.
Dave's basement was pretty nice.
It was pretty nice. It's nicer than my house, so get ready for that. But no, so that's the thing is that like we are all kind of married to this little thing that we have going on that kind of I don't know, it's not a club like at all. It's nothing like that. It's more of a it's just accountability. Like I know for a fact that these dudes are when it comes time to do these trips or anything, like on the weekends, like we do Christmas together, we do birthdays, we usually will kind of combine a couple people's birthdays that are close and have one party there. Or Jaden lives in downtown Dallas and he has a pool at his apartment, so that's the place we go party in the summertime. And at my house I have a little bit of space, and so we do bonfires and shit like that in my house in the wintertime. And we kind of use the resources of all of our friends to kind of do things. And the crazy thing is that like that group of friends, just it's got like a core group, and then the 350-mile radius group, and then the fucking 600-mile radius group, and they're all it's a lot like a club, but it's not a club. It's just people that chose to make the effort. The House of Harley party was full of guys that are a part of that group of friends. I mean, they're all their own brands and their own people, but the connection is a lot of not just myself, but Big Will Cody or Jaden or Jive Ass Honky, all these dudes. You know what I'm saying?
He's an excellent penis drawer, by the way.
Yeah, he's just fucking it's art, bro. He's the Banksy of penis drawing.
But yeah, you have all of the benefits of a club without having any of the headaches of a club. So
how'd you finally got to metal? You finally got to meet a lot of the guys up in House of Harley. Like, you think they're all nerds or what?
I don't know how we just transitioned like that. Like, so anyway.
No, I mean, like you kind of saw what I mean. I guess what our lifestyle is like.
Well, I've had a chance through For the Road to meet you and the Two Lane Life guys and some other things. And I really, again, I can't say enough about the dudes. Even not in my own state. Like there's club guys that I know that maybe they fall under the same banner, nation, or whatever you want to say. That I consider great friends, and it provided me invaluable advice. And you know, it all kind of helped shape like where I was going as a club guy, and some of the talks with those guys and saying, you know, the family stuff, like, are you able to balance it? And when I look in the mirror, I think that the answer is no, that I would just end up being like my dad or something like that. And that scares the shit out of me. And I don't want to do that. And then, you know, I see the 2-lane life guys or the stuff that you're doing. I'm like, okay, well, I can still be a motorcycle guy, but I can do it on my terms. And then because I have great leaders and mentors, I can say, well, if I walk away from the club life, these guys are still going to, I'm now an outsider, but they're not going to shun me. I'm still going to be allowed to come around or whatever, you know, participate, I guess, or whatever you want to say. Yeah. And so I think once I started putting all of that together, I think I was like, well, I really like what these other guys have. I really like what these other guys are doing. And for me, a big positive to Four for the Road in the podcast was I met so many different club guys from so many different areas and non-club guys that, like, when I was traveling, I could just meet up with dudes. And you really start to see that you know, all I care about is my club mentality. And I totally understand guys that have that. I get that. Like, they live and die and breathe and all that stuff for their club. And I 100% respect that. It wasn't something that I could buy into. Like, I was like, I can't hate this dude because of geographically where he lives. Or at the very least, I can't not talk to him or fuck with him because of where he lives geographically. Yeah. That's just not who I am. It's not my nature. And now I'm doing a disservice to my brothers because I've pledged my to the grave loyalty to them, essentially. That's kind of the expectation. Yeah. And I was like, so if you can't be half in, half out, I think you have to look at getting out. And people think, like, you know, to get out of a motorcycle club or whatever, you got to get shot in the head. Well, that's not true. You know, it's all about
oh, really?
It's all about respect, and it's all about integrity. Integrity should be your watchword no matter what the fuck you're doing. And if you come to it like a man and you're like, look, these are the reasons why I think this is no longer for me, people should respect your decision. Some people are petty, but for the most part, if you do it correctly, people respect that decision, and they want guys that are all in. They don't want somebody that's on the fence. And so, you know, I started looking in. I was like, hey, I think that it's time for me to walk away from this because I'm more invested in this other stuff. And in my free time, I'm going to make all my kids' games. I'm not going to have to worry about which ones I sacrifice and which ones I don't because I'm going to go to all of them. And then I'm going to ride cross country or whatever, and I'm going to visit whoever the fuck I want and things like that.
That was why I left clubs.
And that's why I did too. Yeah. I still love it. I love the history. I've always been just a fucking nerd for that stuff, and I love the history and the way it intersects and the way it grows the next generation of bikes and the way it's almost like
there's a lot of psychology in it though.
It's like a sociologist or what. I think I just butchered that fucking word. But that kind of aspect to it, I've always loved. There's actually a guy, William Delaney. Who he was in I think he was in a vet club for a while, but he was a professor at the Air Force Academy, and then I think he went to like Eastern Carolina and was a professor. But he was an Air Force special operations guy. He was a motorcycle club guy, and he wrote I think it was a doctorate thesis, maybe a master's, on kind of the sociology of motorcycle clubs. And I printed it. It was like,
that'd be interesting. Is it available to
read? Yeah. It's if you William Delaney, if you Google him, it should come up. But it's like a PDF dissertation from he got his doctorate or his master's or whatever it is from like Florida State. And I downloaded and printed it off at work. And unless my boss is listening, then I didn't. I was like at my desk, like reading this shit, and I mean it was just fascinating. And then I was able to talk to him and have a conversation with him, and like he's like, yeah, there's some things in there that I fucked up, but you know it was a good starting point, and this is what I've learned since, and all this other stuff. So
that's one of the things I've really admired about you is the writing, and when you first reached out to me through like when I started the podcast and stuff. You had written a piece or two that you had. What platform did you publish that on? Like
it's probably so. I met so Jim is a guy that does Four for the Road for us, and I'd known him previously, but he was a part of Sucker Free, and I just been talking to him about bikes and clubs and his club life. He's in a very historical club that I've just always been fascinated with their history. It goes back to the mid to early 1930s. They're just huge racing stuff. And so I'm talking to him about that. I was like, you know, I'm putting pen to paper, and he's like, oh, let me see some of it. And he's like, hey, by the way, I work on this social media platform. You know, would you be interested in doing some stuff with us? And I'd be like, oh man, absolutely. Because I still do it to this day. I ride around. I got a little leather notebook that I carry in my saddlebags, and like I like to go out. I'll go to Sturgis because Sturgis is only about a 12-hour ride from my house straight down I-90. Yeah. And I'll go to like, you know, the Black Hills or Deadwood or something like that just on a weekend and get up in the hills and like pull my notebook out and just write. I'm a fucking nerd like that, and I dig that shit. And so, you know, he was able to do that. And I guess more so like I don't do the tough guy thing or this is how to be a good patch holder or whatever. It's never my jam. I've always respected the history of it and trying to find as much as you can. And it's hard because you're reading it or trying to verify. Verifying it's the hardest shit in the world.
Yeah. I would think that the writing that would be most inspiring to me, and I think that you kind of probably do this sometimes when I see your stuff, is it's more of I guess the word is introspective of like yourself and how to take in this world of being a biker or whether a club guy or just.
And I think a lot of vet stuff too. I mean, you know, it's cliche to be like, you know, it helps with. And I don't think PTSD is the right word. You know, I think the transitioning from, you know, we all want to pull our dicks out and talk about how badass we are and how transitioning from the service.
Yeah, I was going to do that in a minute.
Talking about how transitioning from the service is fucking easy, and if you can't do it, you're a fucking fag or whatever the case is.
But on that note, not to cut you off because I want you to finish what you're saying, but I definitely want to get this out before I forget because my memory's getting shorter. One thing I've been kind of diving into mentally trying to understand is the identities that we kind of cling on to in our upcoming of being a biker, right? Because when I first got into this, the identity was kind of wrapped around, it's probably too long to kind of hit the nail on the head with it, but as of recently in the last like 10 years, I found it to become identity to a type of bike, then to a type of brand within the bike, and now it's like how many of those brands you support is your new identity.
Sure.
And don't get me wrong, like, you know, I got an Outcast shirt on, you got a Mercenary Motorcycle hat, you got our nice motherfucker over here. Like, we all like to support the brands that we fuck with, but there is still an identity that comes along with us all being this way.
Well, it's like you said on the first manufacturing podcast, it's a flag, and you're showing you're like, I'm down with you guys or whatever, like, or these are the dudes that are my homies that I want to support or whatever. And the identity piece, I know we already kind of talked about it earlier in the podcast, but it's very prevalent with military service. They do a great job of giving you an identity. And I think the part that a lot of dudes struggle with, and I think that we need to, as veterans, as the vet community, we need to come together. You know, I think we're really good at ripping each other down.
Yeah.
And we're okay at supporting each other, but I think we're very good at like, well, if you didn't transition or if you don't do like that, then you're fucking weak or you're this or you're that. You know, I think something that I would like to see more of, I guess, is just when you guys being open about having a difficult time transitioning. Like, you know, there's a line between being that guy that can't let go of their service.
The transitioning, the people that are transitioning from military life to civilian life. Yeah. And
there's guys that like their whole identity is their service. They can never let it go. And that's I feel bad for them. But I also think that we need to be honest about the fact that you can struggle trying to figure out what your next purpose is or what your next step is. And that's fucking okay.
But see, at the same time, like when I did the podcast with the TT vets, we talked about this, you know, because I was like, look, man, I struggle with my identity, and not my identity, but my purpose in my life now. Like, you know, I've never served, and, you know, kudos to everyone that has and shit like that. But I still struggle with finding my purpose in life with everything that looks so perfect on the outside looking in. You know what I'm saying?
And you can't let your veteran status define you. It can be a part of you, and you can be so proud of it, and you should be proud of it. And I know we want to make fun of dudes or whatever, give them shit, but you should be proud of it. But it can't define you, and it can't be the rest of your life. And it's the same thing. I think the best club dudes are ones that have an identity outside of just a patch. They're a great club dude, but they have other things. The club isn't the only thing that gives them purpose.
Well, it's like what I was just saying a while ago about, like, I want my group of friends to all bring some insight to the table that's not on it, right? And so that's where the identity, it's like, I don't need another dude that has another thrashing shirt on, you know what I mean? if that's all he has, I mean, if that's what he wears, that's fine. But I want his identity to be who he is, like his career, his life outside of the bike, because that's what's going to bring the diversity into my life and into this group and help kind of, you know, I've always believed that like we're constantly being shaped by the people around us and the friends that we choose and the relationships we have. And, you know, trust me, there's something very romantic about having a friend that you grew up with from, you know, first grade, and you're still boys today, and you've grown up together, and you know, it's just been this fucking perfect, you know, movie-esque, you know, Bucky Barnes and fucking, you know, Steve Rogers type thing. And that's a fucking Avengers quote for you guys. But reality is, like, you know, especially nowadays with so much information coming to us, we get inspired very quickly. Like, we can go home tonight and see something on fucking line, YouTube, Pinterest, fucking whatever, that just inspires us to take a right turn in life. And it's really hard to stay on the same page with somebody for years and years and years now. But doesn't mean you got to fucking scold them for the changes they're making in life, right? Like, if somebody's like someone's on that board and we're riding now, I've already put it in my head that at some point someone's going to, like, not fall off. They're going to start going somewhere else in life, and that's okay.
Yeah, make sure you give them a dotted I when they do it.
It's dotted I.
Like, not my club.
But at the same time, it's like you want to, you know, I love surrounding myself by people that, you know, that are interesting, that lived a life that inspire me, like, you know.
Fucking, I see Alex over there. I don't remember what we're talking about that I still have. But I see Alex over there commenting on something. I love Alex. Alex is a host of Harley, dude. But
mad average. Mad average.
I'm going to tell you right now, Alex's balls are not as good as Jaden's, but...
You saw him?
No. But, you know, Alex is just a dude that, like, you know, I've met through, you know, getting work done at House of Harley and stuff like that, like coming down all the way from Madison just to go there and stuff like that. And just evolved over time to, again, he's somebody that maybe, like, is outside of where I normally would have hung out, but just through, like, looking for something better and looking for certain services or parts or whatever, you get to meet somebody like, that dude's rad as fuck. And I think Alex is rad as fuck. And I think that, you know, that's the type of shit that motorcycles bring you, the military brings you. Because, again, you in the military, you are all together, whether you like it or not. And
all walks of life come together.
All walks of life. And you, like, I remember, like, my fondest memories of it are, you know, talking shit in the barracks, and then we all would walk to the defect and get food, get a meal, the dining facility, and, like, eat. And then go back and, like, I don't know, we're in our early 20s or late teens, whatever. And so you're playing the first Xbox edition or whatever, and, like, talking shit to each other and getting drunk till 4 a.m. or whatever the case would be. And you continue those bonds. You know,
to me, that sounds awesome, being able to just sit there with your homies.
Oh, it is.
Or even not your homies yet, like people that you're meeting. Like, I've always said, is it not the most amazing feeling to literally sit down and get to know somebody? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, if you think about it, like dating, right? It's fun. You get to go be freshly new again and tell your story to someone that genuinely cares, and you get to find out about somebody else. And, like, that conversation is so engaging. It's so interesting. Same thing happens when I met my friends or I meet new guys that you know, it's the right setting and we can actually sit down and talk. Like, hey, where are you from?
Yeah.
Oh, I fucking moved down here for this. Like, really, what was it like up there? Like, that shit feels so fucking awesome to learn, basically.
And the bond that you make with people when you ride cross
country. I feel like that's what me and you did in fucking Milwaukee the first time when we went and had pizza that night, and you bought me a beer. It's so nice of you.
I feel like I paid twice. I feel like I paid the next time you came down too, at the one across from the hotel.
Someone told me a long time ago, and I don't know who it is, but the message is more important than who they were.
Also,
never turn down free food or free money.
All right, so before we go back to the barracks living too, like my wife, when you guys came to stay, she put out Wisconsin's finest beer for you.
I'm going to go pee in a second. And then
you guys say you guys haven't even touched it yet.
I'm scared of it.
That shit.
I'm scared of it
Have
too.
you ever had it? Because you said that you can't get this outside of Wisconsin.
Yeah, so I guess I don't know if there's anybody else from Wisconsin they can chime in and better say, but my understanding is they tried to do some kind of bottling deal or something for outside distributors, and it got shot down or something. So fucking yeah. And for now, it's only available in Wisconsin.
All right, so I'm gonna go pee real quick, and then we're gonna crack one open, and I'll beat you.
And so is it live still on too? Like I can just talk to people while you're gone?
Yeah, there.
Yeah.
Stop fucking looking at me.
Is the glass made out of human stuff?
Yeah, it's like you know, when we get done eating ass and eating people, we go out on the beaches of Lake Michigan, and then we get the glass for this stuff. Like, yeah, it's a big Wisconsin thing, but I've never had one. I'm just a fucking hillbilly, like, trailer park dude, so I always just drink Miller Lite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty big on, like, craft beers and breweries and shit.
Yeah.
So, but I've never heard of that.
Yeah, my wife was like, you know, don't let Jace know that we're cousins. So let's get something that looks sophisticated. So she had like so we have like a downstairs area that's like its own like little like bedroom and bathroom shit. So she had all this made up and like had that on the bed for him.
Oh shit! And he didn't drink it?
They didn't drink it. I don't know if they had sex in our house, but they didn't drink the beer. I'll have to ask him when he's back.
I don't even think he does sex anymore. One question I did want to ask. I've always heard about paying dues and all that shit.
Yeah.
Is that just like something that you have to do like on the regular, or is it when you fuck up only, or? No,
so like your club dues are just like usually probably monthly. Okay. And they're supposed to go they can go for a variety of things, right? But they should go to something that's either better in the club or your chapter. So maybe you have a clubhouse, you have to pay rent or keep the lights on or whatever, and that's, you know, maybe why you throw parties too. Maybe you're gonna pay for people, like, you know, there's a run coming up, so the dues are gonna cover everybody's gas and hotel expenditures or something like that. Like that's what I would say the majority of clubs are using dues for, something to that effect. Now, some clubs, again, nothing applies to all clubs, but some clubs, they may have like a fine. Like if you miss a church meeting or you miss a mandatory run or something like that, they're going to fine you a certain amount of money. Or maybe there's sometimes they have like an update for your bike. Like your bike has to be up and running by a certain date if you were doing like winter manufacturing or maintenance. And you miss that date, you might get a fine or something like that. And that should go into club funds, and then again, pay for something that's going to better the chapter or the club.
Bottle opener over there.
This thing?
Yeah. So
these aren't just twist off?
Are they?
I don't know.
No, they're not. Need one?
I'll try one, yeah. Thank you.
Here. So on the club dues thing, I think this year, you know, our group of my homies and I,
you're gonna start charging them dues?
No, I want to. No, 100%. Because on our big trip,
you better get them a Sturgis house then.
No, not Sturgis. Well, so here's the deal. We just when we did the last podcast we did together, the year-end special, the Christmas one, or whatever. The next day, we all came in here and we mapped out our Pacific Northwest trip, right?
Yeah.
And so that trip's going to have a lot more camping than we did in the Northeast trip, obviously, because we're out in the big open spaces and shit. And you got to book badass campsites ahead of time because, you know, they book out real quick and it's hard to get in. So for us, it's like if we all start paying, I think we're doing like, I suggested like $100 a month from January all the way up until June. That's $600 a person times 9. So that covers all of our lodging, and we'll probably have some left over to cover like a bar tab here and there, things like that. You know what I'm saying? And that means that when we actually get ready to go on the road, that we're only bringing money to actually cover our gas and whatever extra we want to do, which makes it a lot easier for us. So it's like the concept of dues, like that shit don't have to be club thing. That could be for friends. I mean, like we went to fucking Florida a couple like September, and it was the same thing. Like everybody had to put in to get a house, to get a rental car. A couple couples coming together to make that shit happen. So, I mean, the dues thing, it's like one of those deals. If you want to make the trips a little bit more doable, make it a little bit less of a burden financially when it actually comes time, paying into something is not that hard. You know what I'm saying? Like if I said right now, like, hey, dude, me and you can do a full Europe trip in 2 years, but we got to put $100 a month aside now, and then by the time we get there, the flight's covered, the bike getting shipped is covered. By the time we get there, or by the time we're ready to go, all we're paying for is our food and gas while we're there. Fuck yeah. I'll do that in 100.
Yeah.
No questions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Fuck Netflix. Fuck Amazon. I'll put that $100 instead. You know what I'm saying? And we're doing that. So, but it's finding those kind of friends that are like willing to make those goals that are going to be a year or two out. Those bigger goals, like doing something international, or, you know, or even just doing a trip like going from Texas to Washington and back. So,
yeah, and I think, you know, you have to have, again, club or friends wise, people trust you. I guess, right? They'd go into an account that you would handle or would hang on to. I'm sorry. Do you need more? Do you need more time to know?
What do you think it tastes like?
I like it. I mean, I'm used to it.
It's not IPA shit, so that's
No.
good. I dig it.
But yeah, you need somebody that you have that trust in, and you need somebody to be responsible. I would argue that like a treasurer is probably the hardest position in a club, because the book should be, in a good club, the book should be open for anybody to look at any time. Like, I should be able to walk in and say, hey man, let me see the books, and they should be good to go. And you know, that's a lot of pressure on somebody, especially maybe when some of us aren't that great with numbers or money or whatever. You know, like, it's a lot of responsibility.
Well, as I said, you find the guy in the group that is more financially responsible, or for lack of a better term, you find the Jew of the group.
YouTube's taking this down.
Yeah.
Oh, I see Josh is on. I think he's Jewish.
But I think that, like, so I guess I don't think I'm privy to say this, but I feel like there were certain things that really made things easier while I was in a club, and I definitely feel like I kind of pushed some of those narratives onto my current group of friends.
No.
And even though it's not like a law or a bylaw or a requirement, I've definitely convinced everybody to make that become a priority, so that certain things just kind of work in a certain way. And I feel like that's one of the main things is paying into something. Not that we do it all the time, but when we do have a trip coming up, we will pay into it. And the main thing I preach to my friends is accountability. Like, I count on them to be at bike night every week. You know, I count on them to be there so that I can come and escape from everything going on and hear about their day, just to feel connected to my other friends. Just like if you were to go to church every week with your club, you know what I'm saying? So the accountability thing is one thing that I've always preached in our friends, is like, look, if, you know, don't just show up whenever it's convenient for you. Show up to everything whenever you can, and be the consistency that we all are trying to be ourselves. Therefore, it doesn't, you know, everything works that way. Bike nights work out well when you know you have at least 7 or 8 guys showing up every week. So you just do it every week. No. You know what I mean?
And I feel like that's something that maybe social media, Instagram, whatever, has kind of given a bigger spotlight to. But there really are so many groups out there now of guys that are doing rad shit on motorcycles that you can have access to, that I think they almost give you a second option. I think previously, when you think of some of the stuff, the traveling, the just bullshitting around on bikes, ripping through the city, having bike nights, going bar to bar on a weekday, going cross country, whatever, that was kind of something that people associated with clubs. Mm-hmm. And I think now you have access to seeing guys like yourself, Outcast Culture, Mercenary Motorcycle, you know, tons of other stuff like the East Coasting guys. You know, these dudes that are doing awesome stuff, whether it's hooligan type stuff, whether it's racing, whether it's riding cross country, going to events. Like, you can see these groups of people doing it without the requirements of being in a club.
Yeah.
And so I think it takes guys that maybe, because I think dudes join clubs and then they're miserable about it. But some guys join clubs because they're looking for something. They do it and then they're miserable. Then they stick it out because maybe that's just who they are. Like, they made a commitment, so they're going to honor it and stick to it and stuff like that. Is that a great brother? I don't know. He could be. But I would rather have somebody that wants to be there. And I think giving people an option to look at something else and say, hey, maybe that's more my speed. Maybe something like what Mercenary or FASTLIFE is doing, or, you know, whatever, is more my thing. Or I want to get in, you know, I want to emulate Steve Chamberlain or something like that. That's more my speed. I want you to have those options. And then if you still think that, no, the club stuff is my speed, then I think we're getting a better quality person.
Yeah.
And I think you should always be focused on the quality and if instead of the quantity. And if there's something else out there that's enticing to somebody, go fucking do that. Be happy. And we'll get somebody in return that's happy.
One of the main goals that I've tried to do with this podcast over the years is try to take is try to inspire people to become that first step for a city or a town or whatever. Be the first guy to make that change and go, or make that step to go, hey, look, I'm going to do a bike night. I'm going to set one up, or I'm going to set up a ride or a Facebook page for people that are live in this city to come find it. And, you know, try to inspire people to find another group. Because like you said, no matter what, whether it has a patch on the back or not, it's still the tribalism of us wanting to find like-minded dudes that want to do this type of shit, right? Yeah. And then the camp out was the same. It was like, it was the answer for whenever you were trying to put together that bike night. All right, the bike night's working now. I got the guys coming out. Everybody's friends now. We're doing bike night on Thursday or Tuesday or whatever. But then we're also going to ride on the weekends together. We're going to have dinner together. Our wives are friends now. Shit like that, right? The camp out is like that. Man, let's do a big trip together. No. Let's take this bike night friendship or this local friendship, and let's go put it on the open road. Let's have a destination to go hang out with other dudes that are doing the same type of shit. No. Right? So,
and the nice thing is you have no politics with that.
Yeah, none. Yeah. All I want to do, like, I think that.
Have you had club guys show up to those?
Last year we had Bandito show up, and they reached out and asked me if they would come, if they could come, and at first, and I guess that's kind of I like to dance around this one a little bit. I don't have a no club policy, right? But I also want any club that shows up to know that nobody gives a fuck.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think.
So you're putting yourself in a place where it's almost like we're playing bingo and you're coming here trying to play bridge or some shit like that. Like, we're not playing the same game here. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? So if you want to come and party, fuck yeah. But if we all got to act differently because you're here right now, because you operate in a different type of vocabulary than we do, because we're talking shit.
Yeah.
You hang around the fire long enough, someone's going to talk some shit. And it's not like, you know, we're not testing your manhood. It's just like the nature of our demographic of people. You know what I mean? We're all fucking poking fun of each other. Yeah. You know what I mean? So if someone takes it too seriously and then it turns into this, like bro, like, don't. It's one of those things I think you had said, or one of the guys on the Four for the Road said, like, actually, I think the other guy that was on the podcast that I was on with you guys, they don't put themselves in those places to be in bad situations like that, where you're outnumbered with a bunch of dudes that are kind of being a little bit out of line, sure, talking about club stuff, things like that. But I'm not opposed to them coming. I just don't want them to, I want them to just be normal.
Yeah. And
Is that weird to ask?
No, but I think it goes both ways. You know, so I like at House of Harley, you know, I don't know if that was the first time you had met some of the other like mercenary guys like Josh.
I met him at the down south camp out.
So, but like Josh and Brandon and things like that, and something that we've talked about before. I've always asked them, like, what kind of I don't know what the right word is, but like kickback do you get for the mercenary thing, for, like, you know, having the logo on your back or a t-shirt or whatever, riding around in groups and shit like that. And sometimes, you know, the clubs will come up and they're like, yo, what the fuck is this? And I always feel like as a club, like, that's the way you approach it speaks volumes. You know, you're an ambassador for the entire culture. Mm-hmm. And you obviously can see that this isn't a club. Now, it might be something that's going in that direction, but it is so much more beneficial and I feel like easier for you to go up there and just be that laid back guy, that normal, like you said, normal dude, and be like, hey man, tell me about yourself. Tell me about mercenary. What is this? And get the information and create a conversation, maybe create friendships, or at least create a pipeline of communication rather than that tough guy shit. You gain absolutely nothing by going immediately to the tough guy stuff. Now, in any walk of life, there may be a time where somebody just needs to get fucking punched in the mouth. That's in any second of life.
Yeah.
But you're going to create such a better vibe or whatever. You're going to create such a better outlook for clubs by being that normal guy that's like, hey man, tell me about yourself first. And then, you know, if Josh or Brandon, like, hey man, you need to go fucking suck a dick, whatever, fine. Then you go from there. But you see a group of dudes running around on bikes. You see dudes maybe wearing similar T-shirts or whatever. Like, it costs,
trying to police and stuff.
It costs you nothing to just be like, "Hey man, tell me about that," instead of immediately to the tough guy shit. Yeah. But I think also like what you're talking about at the camp out, talking shit and that witty banter and that back and forth stuff is great. And I think everybody is probably in some form down with that. But also, you have guys, I think, that would look to push the envelope and see what they can get away with. So I'm going to talk extra shit because you're in a club.
Yeah. And I feel like we're outnumbering you.
Yeah. So I'm going to get extra liberal with what I'm going to say to you or something like that maybe I wouldn't say in another setting. And I think that's also wrong. Like,
it is wrong. Yeah.
If those guys show up to support an event and aren't causing trouble or whatever, there's no reason to test them. Like,
I want them to, so my ultimate, if in a perfect world, I would love for more clubs to come, but the only problem is that our camp out is people from everywhere in the country. Like literally, we've gotten every coast now and every border. So clubs are territorial, and we're also doing a camp out in Oklahoma, which I believe is an outlaw state, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know the politics with the Banditos coming over. I don't know the politics of other clubs coming in.
I'm not from Oklahoma. I don't know anything.
I'm not sure either. But at the same time, like I don't want the presence of that to alter the free, fun vulnerability that people are coming to the camp out to become.
And not set as a club dude, not setting your pride, ego, or class aside is why colors aren't allowed in so many events. Yeah. Because we've had an inability to set that aside for the enjoyment of an event. Now, again, there's also responsibility in other people there. Like, why are you going to poke a bear that you don't have to?
The only way I would say the advocate for the other people that have the responsibility is that they have a responsibility, but they don't know that they do. That's the difference. The only people that came to the table that know, like if I come to the table as a club member, then I have a whole history or I have a whole understanding of a different world. Yeah. If you're just a guy that showed up to the camp out that was advertised as like, hey, come here, meet people, get to know people, and the demeanor of everybody here is fun, poking fun, like, you know, good times, nothing's taken seriously. And then this guy shows up. Is it your responsibility to have to now not dumb yourself down, but get to come on this dude's level when you don't really know the etiquette? You didn't sign up to go to a club party. This is a camp out. So in my opinion, the narrative of my camp out should be the narrative that everybody plays. Mm-hmm. So we shouldn't make an exception because a club comes in and wants to be treated with a different type of respect that everybody else is being treated. Like if you're going to come here, you have to be equal.
Yeah, and I think that's the key word there is equal.
Yeah.
But like I think that, you know, if you go to an event and you think that because it's a public event or whatever, that maybe you can get a little bit more loose-lipped to a club guy or anybody in general.
They are the ones with the flags on the back that some people want to ask questions.
And I think questions are fine. And again, it's about being a good representative of your club, of your nation, and understanding where the line is. Yeah. And I think that maybe in those situations, because it's a public facing event, you do give the person more slack.
Yeah.
But I think, you know, there's a point too when if you're
poking, there's not a line spot. Yeah.
If you're poking a bear and you get punched in the mouth, I think a lot of folks could benefit from getting punched in the mouth more. That's
at the
personal
same time,
philosophy.
as a host of this event though, I would have no problem if one of those club guys came up to me and said, "Hey man, I don't want to disrespect the event. Could you maybe speak with this man to just get him away from us?"
I think that's a hard thing for men.
It's probably a hard thing for a man to do.
I think it's hard for any man.
But the problem is it? So this is
and maybe that's why clubs avoid those sort of events.
This is the narrative, right? He acts out on that guy, right? Mm-hmm. I don't think the whole camp out's going to be like stomping on the club guys. Like no one's going to do that.
But people are going to remember that a club stomped this dude.
The people are like, fuck, I don't want to go there. Like, that doesn't look like fun. Like, we got to go there and be on our P's and Q's because these serious bikers are here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so it is a awkward situation to be in.
No.
And that's one thing I love about rallies is because when you go to Sturgis, like, the clubs stick to themselves. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, our campground that we were at, HA every fucking where. And we were in the same bar. All my friends acting out, got our shirts off, bellies out, acting like dumbasses. But the clubs ain't fucking with us. They got their own shit going on. They don't care about us, and we don't care about them. So we're operating under the same roof, having a party, but we're sticking to ourselves. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I wasn't like going with my belly out like, hey, where'd you guys ride from? You know what I mean? Like, we can operate in the same place, but we do have to. There just has to be kind of an understanding. And like I said, if a club can come out to our camp out and some dude can find like a draw to that club, like, man, like I love like something about you guys being here, your patch, your history, the way that you guys are carrying yourself right now is inspiring to me. I'd love to, hang out with you guys sometimes or something like that. I would love for that to be an option for people at our camp.
I think just maybe not even that, but just in the fact that there's so many places, events, gatherings that colors are banned at, that to have something that can be a place that's still welcoming is a great thought. But again, it takes a lot, and I would argue for clubs, I would say that it takes more responsibility on their part than it does your part or anybody else that attends the Fast Life that's not camp out that's not affiliated with clubs. I think it takes more responsibility on the club's part to say I need to have a higher threshold of what I'll accept here, or not put myself in that situation, or not attend period.
Yeah.
And that sucks.
I'll be honest with you. I honestly feel like it's not really the place for the seriousness of motorcycle clubs. You know what I mean? We're all passing around bags of mushrooms. We're doing gallons of alcohol. We're getting wild. There's most of the chicks that come to our camp out is sand that somebody brought to the beach, as opposed to just chicks that are just like, oh, I came here to get fucked. You know what I'm saying?
So I don't know if you've ever been to a motorcycle club party, but the chicks that are here to get fucked, you don't want to fuck. But,
exactly. Well, there was some of those at the camp.
But I feel like what you're describing is a party that I think all bikers like, club or not. But
it is. But what the goal of it is, I guess, is, and I'm going to try to articulate this because I think it's the most important part. Like if you're in Madison, Wisconsin, and you see this camp out thing pop up and you're like, you know what, we might have the weather to be able to make this. And you hit up your other buddy, hey man, you want to do this camp out thing? He's like, yeah, man, let's do it. It's like, what kind of time can you get off? I'm like, I can get probably a week off. Fuck, man, it's like a day's ride, maybe a day and a half ride. Let's turn this into something. Let's and then you're planning it. Planning your bike trip, right, with your homie. And yes, the camp out is maybe a destination or it's a stop in the run, right? That's all I want people. All I want to do is inspire people to travel on their bikes.
But it's already that. It
is that. But every day there's a new guy that maybe got his first Dyna, thought he was going to be a wheelie guy, fucked up. He finally got it fixed. He's like, I want to be a fucking travel guy now. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I want to be that thing to help people find something about. I want the camp out to be an opportunity for people to fall in love with motorcycles.
No.
In love, to where, like, I just can't imagine life without this. Not necessarily this camp out, but this vibe, this thing, this bug that got into me 3 months ago.
There's a difference between motorcycling and clubbing. Mm-hmm. And if we can create a space at Four for the Road that helps you either make that distinction or fall in love with one or the other, great. But absolutely, I think the art of motorcycling is falling in love with something. Motorcycling is art.
Yeah.
Whether you're a painter, a builder, whether you're just riding, smashing miles, whether you do wheelies, whatever the case may be, motorcycling is an art. And all things related to it are an art form. And I think it's rad to meet dudes that are passionate about it. Like, I don't want to meet the dude that's like constantly mean mugging, like whether that's a club dude or a fucking just a biker or whatever. Yeah. I want the dude that's like, again, he's fucking dances with wolves with it, and like this shit just fucking inspires him, and that's what he wants to do.
Dances with wolves or Jax Teller on top of the roof writing in his journal.
Ooh, that's so good. How are your shoes always so white? Have you ever shifted a bike? I don't understand.
I don't know about y'all, but I have a pair.
Dude, I did too, man.
I still have some.
But they're not white?
Mine do have a red check, but...
You can't shift and keep them white. I don't understand how he did that.
If you change
your toe, brother. I've had some really nice Air Maxes, but to throw off the Jax vibe, I did switch to Vans.
Is that the only reason? Dude, I love that, dude. That's my favorite type of commenter on Four for the Road is the fucking mad at Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah.
Like, why? Did you let somebody with a Sons of Anarchy cut on, or the only thing they knew about clubs was Sons of Anarchy? Did you let them in your club? Because that's fucking on you, bro. Yeah. Like, I don't understand what you're mad at. Like, some dudes, motorcycle clubs in general it's cosplay.
Yeah.
Like, and I love it. And I'm not, it's funny to say that, but it really is. Like you can leave it at any time. People that aren't in it don't give a fuck, maybe might not give a fuck about it. Like, it's a very small, specific demographic. And so you are the gatekeeper to that for your organization. Mm-hmm. If somebody comes up to you and the only thing they know about bikes is fucking Sons of Anarchy, and you let them hang around Prospect or whatever, that's fucking on you. That's not on Sons of Anarchy. That's not on Kurt, whatever his fucking name is. Suter. That's 100% on you.
Yeah, but at the same time, that could be a dude that he could be something. You know what I mean?
He very well could be.
Again,
it's all on you. Did you take that dude's interest and mold him into something better? Or did you just say, hey, man, fucking, yeah, good enough. Come on. Yeah. Like, do you eat people too? Because, like, Jax Teller's a serial killer. Like, do you eat them? And why are we not to me, we should celebrate Sons. Like, legitimate dudes in the bike world got work because of this show for how many fucking years it was on?
7 years or so, like.
And it's the same thing with the Mayans, like actual bikers, veterans, like Rocco Vargas. He's on the Mayans. He's a vet. He's on TV now. That's fucking rad. Like, instead of talking shit about this show that should have no impact on your life.
Well, what about the Devil's Ride? Should we support that?
Which one's is that? Dude, I love that shit. That was Eric Bischoff, the WCW guy. Yeah. That's my jam.
I watched it.
When they're in that parking lot brawl, and like that fucking fake police, Crown Vic pulls
I mean, when they pulled up to the dude's trailer home to take his patch or some shit like that. It was, I don't know.
One of the dudes turned out to be a kitty toucher, though, right?
Probably.
Wasn't that a thing?
I didn't look.
I don't know. The one dude, his name was like Sandman, and he was a boxer. I was like, well, that's original.
I think it's all fucking, I don't know, man. Like, in the industry, we need media, especially TV media, to kind of do like a piece or a portrait of this culture, whether it's the custom building or the lifestyle or whatever. And I think that's why, like, guys like Four for the Road, Lance.
You drink all the Montuckies?
No, I got a hold of the six pack. You need another one?
I gotta pee anyway. I'll go get one.
All right. There's so many. We need those things to keep this thing going, because one thing I never understood until the last couple of years, especially while doing this podcast, is that you realize that motorcycle culture can go away. You know what I mean? Like,
do you think it can go away, or just change into something unrecognizable? Or
I think it can go away. I think it can get to a point where it doesn't have a place anymore. I mean, do you think that motorcycle club culture can adapt to riding electric bikes?
Yeah.
You think they could?
Yeah. To me, clubs, and I'm going to catch heat for this one, clubs are not about the bikes. Motorcycle clubs and motorcycles go hand in hand. You need one for the other. But I would argue that the value that you find in your brother is more important than the bike. So I think whatever avenue you have to be on to have that, you'll have motorcycle clubs. Mm-hmm. So I'm not trashing like, oh, you can start a club without a bike. That's not what I'm saying. To me, I think the value you find in that family and in that brotherhood and in your brother is more important than the bike.
Yeah. I wonder, with how rapid things are kind of going, I wonder how, if we were to revisit this same conversation in 10 years, I really wonder what would be the new norm? What would be the new social norm in our world of, riding bikes?
What will riding in 10 years, what will riding in California look like? Aren't they going all electric?
I believe so, but I mean,
Arizona's about to get a fuck ton of registrations, but
I mean, at the same time, like, if they were to go all electric, like, there's got to be a point of, I don't know. I mean, if they go all electric, the gas tax is what pays for the roads in California.
No.
The fact that it is more expensive, it pays for the roads. So, I mean, I've asked the question before, but I don't know what it costs to, like, go fill up your Tesla. Like, how does that work? Do you fucking put your card in? You know, like, or do you put ones in it?
Well, like the electric,
like Chuck E. Cheese to get tokens or
well,
something?
I thought about like with the electric bikes, like what does it look like for the future of long distance riding? Now, I'm sure that somebody smarter than I has to already be trying to solve this problem. But
What did you watch the Long Way Up?
No.
With Ewan McGregor and those guys when they rode the live wires from I forget the name of it, but the southernmost tip of Argentina all the way up to.
But didn't they keep switching like batteries or something?
No, they didn't switch batteries, but one they always had to charge. That was the biggest problem.
Yeah. So
But-
I mean, what's it going to look like for the average Joe though? Like if I want to go from Wisconsin to California, I can get whatever. Do I have to stop for the day then and let my shit recharge, or is it we're talking about a 45-minute gas stop?
I think in America it's probably more of that 45-minute gas stop. But there was a kid that the first year the live wires came out, he rode it from Florida to Sturgis. He actually did like a whatever that mileage is, 1,300 miles. And it was kind of a big deal because he kind of was the first one that we knew of, other than like the.
Yeah. What did he do it? Did he just shut it down for the night and let it recharge when it ran out?
No, I think that you can get it charged. I mean, there's a lot of the thing with Tesla is like there's a lot of supercharge stations here and there.
Okay.
You just got to plan it. You know what I mean?
I guess, yeah.
But when you're East Coast, like I feel like you have a lot more cities closer together versus when you go west. Then like you leave Phoenix to go to fucking LA. It's like 400 miles.
Yeah.
Or 300 something or something like that. Like there's not a lot of big.
Yeah. Yeah.
Blythe. It's
Dude,
like the
worst motorcycle trip I ever did was west.
Yeah.
This last one. Because I hit that heat wave and everything was on fire. And I was like, this is fucking amazing and miserable all at the same time.
You've ridden a lot back and forth to the East Coast, though, from Milwaukee.
Well, so
or from,
my
Minnesota.
oldest son
Wisconsin.
lives in Virginia.
Uh-huh.
So I get to do a lot of time going out there with my bike and stuff like that and seeing him.
It's good riding between you and Virginia, though.
Yeah, it is. I like the the Appalachian area. West Virginia, I think, is amazing.
Still want to. I've touched it.
Yeah.
I've ridden through a spot. I've ridden through the panhandle of West Virginia.
That's the hard thing about events too. Like I got guys like Ken and Josh and the guys at Mercenary. They're planning schedules around events so that their name, brand, and sale recognition can go with that. And I completely understand that. They're a business owner.
Yeah.
I 100% understand that. That's where you're going to make money. But it's like I love planning my rides about where can I go that nobody else is. Like that's what I want to do. And so like getting that chance to ride these obscure towns in West Virginia. Like
I've had this conversation with another homie recently. He was asking me some pointers about social media and growing his brand. And I don't think that I think that I have a unique opportunity with my brand, like the Fast Life Garage, because of my paint. It's a visual thing that like you post it, people share it a lot. But one thing that's really helped my brand grow on the, I guess, the biker motorcycling side of it is the fact that I will go to events that are, air quotes, like, Sturgis, Born Freeze, all those type of things, right? But more importantly, my biggest event is always my event, my trip to ride somewhere in the country for me. And then we spend the whole time documenting on social media. It helps show people like, what's more important than going to Sturgis and Daytona and all these things is that you do the most that you can put into traveling or riding your bike is into something for yourself, in my opinion. Yeah. So instead of like trying to be where all the crowd is all the time, go out and be you and show the world who you are.
So now you have to go, or not have to, but you go to these events or have to, whatever, because it can provide income for you, brand recognition, etc. But do you like then do the solo trips or the homie trips or whatever to kind of like recharge that battery?
Balance. Yeah. It's a balance, 100%. Like I'm lucky that I don't sell T-shirts or, and I don't mean that in a bad way. Like I don't sell merchandise, so when I go somewhere, I don't need to bring a tent and a booth
but people still want
to.
People still want to see Jace. Like they want to look on social media, they want to look on Instagram and like where's Fast Life, where's Jace going to be, and then they're going to go there. Like that's a fact.
Well, I think that what's happening, it's not that they want to see me. I think they understand that like where I'm going to go is going to be a good time, and so if they follow, if they're going to be in the same place that me and it might even be me. Honestly, it's probably Jaden. Wherever my friends are going to be, which is ultimately where I'll be, is going to be where the good times are going to be if you come. So, I'm not very, and I've talked about this a lot. Like, I think the camp out, I make the most effort to be receptive to people that are coming up to talk to me. But I don't know, man. Like, I struggle with being hey, man, how are you? Where'd you ride in from? Hey, thank you for coming, man. I have a hard time being that guy.
Where's Josh? Can we add him? Yeah, he didn't like you at first. No, I'm just fucking with you.
That's fine.
That. I introduced you guys to Sturgis. Hey, did he just blow me off? And I was like, no, dude, it's good. I
don't know how to. So the other thing is, like, when I do travel with my wife places, I constantly. And my wife's the best. I love her to death. But I constantly feel like I need to tend to whatever she has going on, whatever needs are, things like that. And so
that's not good club behavior.
But so yeah, Sturgis, places like that. Like, I think this year, I don't think she's gonna go. So I'll be spending a lot more time trying to be more personable, have that type of shit. But I don't really see myself as somebody that's like I'm not a role model. Does that make sense? Like, I'm just a guy that rides bikes, and I'm trying to inspire you to ride bikes.
Was that a role model?
No, well, not in the same aspect of
yes, it is. It's a 2022. An influencer in 2022 is a role model for good or for better or worse.
But I don't like I don't put it like this. Jesse James is one of my role models, right?
Which one?
The newest one. But a big part of me doesn't care to meet him.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to meet him.
Really?
Because,
that'd be cool.
I mean, it would be cool, but like, I don't want to, though. Like, I'm good with my perception.
Are you afraid that it would ruin it, or?
Yeah, 100%. Okay. Yeah. Because I don't want to fucking like meet him and be like, oh, that dude blew me off. Fuck that guy. I hate him now.
Yeah.
Because, like, I have no idea how fucking crazy his life is.
Yeah.
I don't have no idea how crazy his day is when I met him at fucking Shell in Sturgis, yeah. Right? He's gonna blow me off. Like how, like, I don't know. That's the weirdest part about, like, all the exposure or whatever. Like, if someone was to come to my shop, I will sit down and hey, man, where'd you come from?
Yeah.
I will give them all the time of the day, but it's so often that it is like it's in awkward places that people
Well, usually you're probably. I mean, I'm assuming here that it probably happens at big events where your time is already stretched, and so, like, you've got other engagements, or, like, I think you mentioned it on a previous podcast. Like, you're thinking about, okay, in 2 hours I need to be over here or something like that. Like, that shit. I mean, for anybody like that.
To be honest with you, I'm trying to learn how to be more. I'm trying to learn how to be more present when I'm places. You know what I'm saying? Like, I deal with anxiety a lot. I never thought I did, but as the last couple of years, I've understood that feeling that I didn't know what was. That's anxiety. So I deal with that quite a bit.
Have you tried drugs?
Yeah, unfortunately, all the ones that work for anxiety, they fuck up the rest of my psyche, and I'm just like, all right, if I'm going to smoke weed, I'm done. Y'all saw it on the Cruzy podcast. Did not do a good job.
What does Rogan recommend?
I don't know. But at the same time,
DMT.
For everything.
I like having a podcast where I can have this conversation.
This is fucking weird, though. Like, I mean, like, I'm sure you're probably used to it now, but for like an outsider, like, having cameras at every fucking angle. And
do you feel like you're on a camera?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you get more used to it once you get going, but, like, the initial start of it, you're like, I don't know who the fuck Mr. The Days One is. I'm sure he's great, but I'm just saying, like, so this dude is, like, watching you, and you got all these cameras. That's a weird feeling at first.
Yeah. It definitely is.
Like, you're like, do I take my clothes off? Like, what do I do with my hands? Like, I don't know what the fuck to do here.
Yeah. At sometimes, like, I've kind of bounced back and forth. I think some podcasts, the TV is too much of a distraction.
No.
And then sometimes it's not a big one. Like, this has been good. We haven't really had an issue with it.
It's got to be, like, think of, like, people are tuning in for an average of 13 and a half minutes to listen to what you're saying.
No, listen to what you're saying.
No, dude.
They hear my ass every week.
They like, this is the Fast Life podcast. Like, there's dudes on here, like, telling you, like, where they're from, checking in for the Fast Life podcast. Like, that's got to feel some kind of way.
some kind of way. Tell me that. It is a great. It's awesome. Like the podcast, the success, the growth. It's been a very difficult thing to accept. You know what I mean? Because I've not. It's weird. Like I'm not an IT guy. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm not a lot of the things. I'm a guy that spent most of my adulthood, or all my adulthood, even to this day, grinding away in a shop, being dirty as fuck.
So to that effect, what do you have? 50,000 followers or something like that?
I don't know.
It's like 50, right? You do know. It's 50.
He knows exactly.
it's 51
point. Oh,
no. But how many of them do you think know about like your early history and like some of the names that you've rubbed elbows with? Like, how many people appreciate the fact that like you spend time working under like for Rick Fairless and things like that? Like,
I don't think that most people give a shit. I think most people.
To me, that's awesome. Like
most people follow for the fact that maybe one day they'll want something. You know what I mean? Like they'll want to buy something from me or get something from me. Or maybe that sometimes, I don't know.
Do you get hit up for like, hey man, what T-shirts or free shit or whatever?
Not free shit. I used to get hit up a lot for sponsorship stuff, but I was like, man, I'm in the same boat you are. I get sponsored, bro. Like, well, I'm gonna sponsor you if I'm getting sponsored. But I'll be honest with you, when I first hit 50,000 followers, like I think we were at bike night that night, and I was like, man, I really thought about deleting my Instagram right then and there, like. You see those fucking memes popping up where it's like the Joker face and he's like me getting ready for work while some chick sells her farts for $50,000.
Wasn't I talking to you about that? There was a girl, and no disrespect to her at all. She's like a stunt rider on sport bikes, and she had like 1 million followers.
Yeah,
and they had like a celebration for, which is great. That's cool. But you look at somebody that's been doing it for how long? Like Sit Down Steve, and I think he's got 200,000 or 300,000. Like he's got a third of what she has because she does stunts in a fucking G-string or bikini bottoms or whatever the fuck. Like that's just crazy. Like if you had tits and ass, you could be here, but because you don't, you're here. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, I mean it's the same thing that's happening right now, and this is probably gonna fuck me. The same thing's happening because a lot of women are coming into the male trades.
No.
And I do support that 100%.
Yeah.
But there's still like this weird, she's not that good at that. Why is everybody why is everybody supporting her like she's the Jesse James of this?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because it's
not the
trendy.
same.
It's trendy.
It's not the same. It's not equal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'm a chick in the male dominated trade now. I'm going to, make posts and all the brands want to support that because they're now inclusive and things like that.
Yeah.
And so my generation of guy, like when I got into this, like I was like, fuck, one day I'm going to get sponsored by an airbrush company. And now here I am like, nope, some chick started 2 years ago. She's getting it. I've only been doing it for 20 years almost.
No.
You know what I mean? So it's kind of like one of those things where it's not that I discredit the fact that women are jumping into this industry at the same rate, but it's definitely not an equal playing field. And and for them, they can argue back and forth and say it's not an equal playing field for them, which on the spectrum of the back end, it's not publicized on social media. I'm sure it's not. So not to demonize them and whatnot. Like I'm not against it. I'm just saying like the corporate side of it, how they look at all this. It's like I feel like my place as a painter, I should have a paint sponsor. I should have a paint gun sponsor.
No.
I should have an airbrush sponsor. I should have all this shit. But they're fucking... The paint industry is a joke, 100%. But if I had tits...
That's, to the, I've been
right
out.
there is when the Fast Life podcast got canceled.
If we keep drinking, we're going to get tits. But, I think it's the same thing like the military lately. And I'm not in, so I don't speak from a platform of experience.
Yeah.
Everything I know is either through news or out, sources that are still in or whatever, secondhand. But it's become an experiment where maybe there's qualified and capable females. There certainly is.
There certainly is, yeah.
But you're giving them either a head start or you're allowing them to skip steps that your male counterparts had to go through. and maybe it's trivial. Maybe some of those things are trivial, but I think every aspect of it is what builds a great leader and a great soldier.
Agreed.
And so allowing them to not experience all of it or any of it is a disservice to them. And you're saying that you're inclusive and you have this diversity, but it's almost like you're undercutting it by saying we're going to change standards or we're going to cut this short for you or whatever the case may be. And I think, and I would argue that maybe the women that are looking for combat roles or whatever are probably very gung-ho to not skip any of it, or to not have any standards change or to not receive any special treatment. Maybe, but that's not what's happening. That's not what's happening on the ground. And so, you know, anytime standards change, people are going to be resentful of it. And so now you've got people that are coming into leadership positions and people are resentful of how they got there or how they perceive they got there. And what was it for? To be more woke?
Yeah.
I think women should have an opportunity, but I don't think you should change anything for the game.
That's literally the whole point it's supposed to be putting. You know, like when it comes to stunt riding, I mean, the proof is in the pudding. If the chick is doing badass stunts, then, you know, point proven. But when it comes to the trades, if a chick can technically airbrush, but the quality of the technique is not where it needs to be, but this individual has 50,000 followers, that it's almost like the followers versus skill level can kind of not inspire you to evolve and to hone your craft.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because you could look at it like, oh, I'm one of the top followed people in my industry now. I must be one of the best. And as opposed to like, I've always had to look up to people and try to get on their level and try to get to that good and always push and push and push.
Yeah.
And I don't know any chicks that are famous for painting right now that have been in custom paint. They've been doing it as long as I have.
No.
You know, but they have brand deals that I would fucking almost blow a dude for.
Funny story about the Army.
I'll blow you, goddammit.
But and so, you know, that's something like I remember like being in Utah and like riding through Logan Canyon and listening to the podcast and you talking about airbrushing and your skills. Like, you think that's something that's still evolving for you or you're going to get away from? Or
I don't see a future in it, to be honest with you. It sucks to like spend so much of my life trying to hone a craft that I feel like, you know, this might be the last year that I offer airbrush, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying that I won't do it for myself,
Yeah.
but I don't think I'll offer it to other people anymore.
And like, do you feel like the fight between Corey Sinclair and Cody was like your favorite part of what was the name of the show?
Biker Battlegrounds.
Yeah.
Well, Corey St. Clair is a good friend of mine and someone that I hold very dear. He's definitely struggled with the growing pains of being a celebrity airbrush artist. Something that I know nothing about. Like, his level of celebrity and his level of skill is on another level.
So the way that show was done, does he feel like being on that was something that, you know, like all press is good press, or is that something he wishes he wouldn't have done? Or
the problem is, I think the problem is with everything with this. I would say that in the last 10 years, maybe 12 years, some of our trades have put people in some very almost air quotes superstardom eras of like within, you know, I couldn't imagine being on Counts Customs every week, you know, or Gas Monkey Garage, and to where I'm signing autographs when I go places. I don't know if I can handle the stress of being who I need to be for that position. Have you signed an autograph yet? I have signed two.
Two? Were they on tits?
No, they were. One was on like a Mighty Ducks hat, and the other was. There's some funny stories about that. But no. Yeah, I mean, at the same time though, like you know, this my path is just kind of it's just different. It's just a wild one. Like, I'm figuring it out. Like, I don't know the right things. I get in my feelings all the time. You know, me talking about, you know, women in my field, which I completely embrace. There still is like a little bit of, I guess, jealousy is the word, and like I won't. you know.
But I think anytime you have that, I think club dudes see the same thing when you have like pop-up clubs or whatever.
Are we supposed to get a woman 1% club soon? I heard about. No, it was a sport bike 1% club.
Yeah, I saw that on TikTok. Yeah, I don't understand TikTok, but anyway, like I think that's anywhere. Like if you're not paying your dues, I think people are going to be resentful, and
yeah,
I think paying your dues.
When you pay your dues and then like things work out in the spectrum of like, okay, I started following this person back in the MySpace days. I seen the progression over time, and then finally they get the good deal with this company or an opportunity to be on TV. You're like, fuck yeah, dude. Like, because I feel like we're in the same trenches together. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But then when you see, I mean, honestly, like it could also like go the other way where it's like just a really handsome motherfucker, you know, a really handsome dude gets all these opportunities. Like he must be good on TV or some shit. You know what I mean?
And
like,
I wonder if, you know, you talk about like, you know, paying your dues and like, you know, going through the trenches together. Has social media like sped it up to where it is almost just dumb luck sometimes? Like if you have a little bit of talent,
well, some people
and somebody notices you.
Oh, yeah.
Some people are better at social media than others. And then that's also been like a big topic of conversation with a lot of people, because all the airbrush artists and custom painters that I idolized in the 2000s, if you go look at their social media pages, you'd be like, this motherfucker just started or some shit. Like they just failed to embrace being their own curator of their art. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like the generation before me that were painters, there were magazines and there were TV shows and there was all these other people that were looking for artists to exploit, right? When I started getting good enough, those people were no longer looking for guys like me, but I had social media. So I used social media to exploit myself. And so the thing that I've been arguing with a lot of people lately is like, because it's the same thing across the board with bike builders.
Yeah.
Right? Bike builders in the early 2000s didn't have to promote themselves. They had all these magazines and people that needed them to make their content for their pages. So
something that you talked about on the first manufacturing podcast, and the bike.
Glad you remember that, because I
was listening to it on the way here, and so like, fuck, I made me lose my train of thought. No, you know, you talk about some of the bike builders and not utilizing social media or underutilizing it and stuff like that. Like, do you think that, you know, because of the way that you're able to leverage it and how good you are at utilizing social media amongst bike culture influencer stuff, mm-hmm. do you think there's going to come another, has there already been maybe somebody approaching you for TV or some type of, even if it's not TV, a series of some kind to talk about this, like there was Biker Battlegrounds or Biker Build-Offs or whatever, to a different extent?
I think that
a day in the life of Jace.
No, my problem is or no, it's not even that. It's just that there's not a market for that.
And so to the other side of that, are there still builders out there that could or would want to do a Biker Build-Off type show? Can that come back?
I'm sure there would be, but at the same time, this is let me preface this answer with this statement. I wholeheartedly care about the motorcycle industry and culture. Like, I care about it.
Yeah.
My friend Zombie Mike said something in the third podcast I ever did on this thing. He said he don't want this shit to die on his watch, right? Now that maybe I can say that I am a player in the game of my motorcycle customizing industry or the motorcycle culture, if I am any aspect of that, I definitely want to do my part to carry this on and leave it better for the next generation of bikers and builders and painters to come in and carry this legacy, right? I feel like there's a lot of people that don't give a fuck about it. And that, it bothers me, but I can't hate them because it's me that cares about it, not them. Like, I understand, like, you're here, you feed your family, you do this, but I care. I really do. You know what I mean? I want to leave this scene better than I found it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's probably why I'm so passionate with my ideas and my perspective on certain things. Not that I won't be moved or swayed or inspired to look at it differently.
Yeah.
But given the facts that I've gotten so far in the last almost 20 years I've been in this industry, I'm like relaying exactly what I was given through being a part of it. You know, some of you guys, some of the people that are in this industry now, there are big name shops around that's only been around for 4 years.
Well, and do you think enough folks know that you were kind of in the shop in the background during some of the biker build-offs? Because you were there for.
Well,
for
some
film.
of them may or may not, but the thing is that before, right? So this is the weird thing, right? Let me try to like say this in my drunken state right now. Before, I'm killing it, bro.
Were you drinking before I got here?
Yeah. No, I wasn't. Before, nobody had to promote themselves. There were, like I said earlier, there was TV shows and multiple magazine publications. They were looking for the new fucking Billy Lane, the new Jesse James, the new anybody that built bikes or did cool shit, right? Yeah. So there's always somebody looking to promote something that they saw cool in you.
Has anybody been better?
We don't have that anymore.
I don't want to cut you off. You go.
We don't have that anymore. Nobody's trying to promote me. Nobody. Right?
But I disagree. I think every time somebody reshares something that you post or something like that, I think that's promoting you. Maybe the Discovery Channel hasn't caught on to that.
So that's the difference between reposting something I made versus what magazines and TV shows did for the biker generation.
But I think those are irrelevant. I think somebody reposting your shit today is that new TV show and magazine.
It's not it's appreciated, but it's not the same at all.
Sure. I'm sure it's not the same.
If I come to you and say, hey, Dave, what you guys are doing is cool. I want to do a piece on you for this magazine, right? That means I'm going to sit here and I'm going to take down notes and conversations and ask you questions. And I'm going to build an article to show the world who you are, right? Hey, I'm Discovery Channel. What you guys are doing is badass. We want to show the world who you are, right? Mm-hmm. Hey, Jace, that was a cool post. Can I repost it? Not the fucking same.
It's not the same. But
if you're creating content on you versus taking my content already created and sharing it, it's not the same thing.
It's not the same. But I think that magazine print is dying. And I think that social media, for better or worse, influence, and the people that do reshare your content or appreciate your content is what's going to influence new types of opportunities that come forward. Do you think that the 2-Lane Life guys, could something like what they're doing be branded more, as they seem to grow like fucking wildfires?
Yeah, because they're the
awesome.
Perfect storm though.
So and I'm not talking shit about it. They're awesome.
Yeah, they are.
But do you think that they could be like the next Discovery Channel thing? And I'm using this as a reference
for sure. If anybody was going to get it, I would say them. And the reason being is that like there are certain people that come along. Like I was just saying earlier about like I finally am at the pinnacle of my painting career, and all the industry wants is chicks, right? So I'm the wrong place at the wrong time. Oh. That's what that is. They are at the right place at the right time. They are older men who have their shit together, that are very well, presented, doing shit that inspires their generation and our generation to ride bikes, and they're doing it with high quality fucking filming and putting a lot of effort into it. They are the right place at the right time,
and they've been phenomenal at bridging the hell yeah gap to the younger generation gap. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's the connection to thrashing or whatever, but I mean, I think that it's genuine too. I've spent time with them, and I think everything that they do is genuine. And I think people recognize that and appreciate that.
Well, what I think that we should do as patrons to any page or any brand we follow. So, what I would say is like who is doing a good job exploiting in a good way rad people, rad builds, rad painters, builders, riders, individuals. Guys like Get Bent Moto, mm-hmm. right? He's out there going and doing on his own time, finding a cool bike or a cool person to do a video and a photo shoot on. Yeah. And then it's his channel he's posting it on, mm-hmm. right? But he's making an effort to show the world somebody. And that's what I did the same thing with this podcast when we started it. I heard about cool people. I followed cool people. I had them on the podcast to exploit who they are to the people, right? Yeah. That was the point, is to be the guy that is showing the people who it is.
And I mean, think about the names that you've had on the podcast over the last 3 years now. I guess going into
4.
Yeah. So
get it right.
It's going into 4, right? It's going into 4.
I'll arm wrestle you, dude. Calm down.
It's going into 4. So, I mean, the names that you've had on here.
Yeah.
Think how many dudes knew that Paul Yaffe made boots for the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders?
Yeah.
That's
It's
fucking
wild.
And
Yeah.
how many people had that story besides Jace?
That's why I tried to pitch to them, man.
I don't know why the Discovery Channel's not in.
Well, I mean, the podcast has been dope. I mean, I've benefited the most. I've got to sit down with some of the people that I admire heavily from the early years of me getting into bikes to people that I didn't even know that. Like, I'm like, oh, I guess this dude's cool. I'll do a podcast with him. And I'm like, the whole time, I'm like, oh, and then what happened? You know, like, I'm like so mesmerized by someone's story. I mean, one of the best podcasts I feel like I ever did, maybe not quality wise as far as like audio and things like that, was like Oliver from the Cut Rate. The very first podcast I did with him, it was like within the first 10 podcasts I ever did, dude was like, me and my brother were sitting there like, wow, like the dude has such a rad ass story. You know what I'm saying? But I don't know what this fucking space looks like, man. I don't know. I'm stoked that there's podcasts. I'm stoked that the 4 for Road is out there. I'm stoked that there are other podcasts that are kind of being consistent and giving people options to kind of get different perspectives. Because obviously a podcast coming to mind, you're going to get my perspective. You're going to get my conversation and whatnot. But you guys talk about things that I don't know shit about. Like, I don't know much about that world. And so I've had many, many people, customers, people reach out to me asking if I had recommendations for other podcasts. And I've always said, you know, if you're into the history, the clubs, the world of that, this is a great podcast. And it's good to be niche based. You know what I mean? Like with you guys doing that, like people know what to expect when they go check you out. You know what I mean? It can pigeonhole you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it also keeps you within your wheelhouse of knowledge and information.
Well, and I think, too, we've always tried to stress we're not here to make money. We're not ever making a profit off of this. It's just a general – it's a community page.
Yeah.
And we're blessed to we have guys that are national officers in their clubs. We have guys that are officers on COC committees or whatever. We are, you know, veteran clubs, AMA clubs, guys looking at clubs, whatever. Like, everybody's able to contribute and give you a perspective on something different to look at. And then they go from the East Coast to down south to, I guess, almost to the West Coast, to Washington and California. So it gives you a perspective from everywhere.
Angles, yeah. How has things changed in the last, like, what, 2 years now? How many years?
I mean, we've been doing the 4 for the Road podcast, I think, for 2 years now.
Yeah.
And then you Sucker Free before that. I think the thing that's changed the most is the people that listen to it, like, worldwide. And, like, finding yourself, like, like making the top 50 on the automotive podcast or something like that, or finding people listening to you in Australia and then like writing to you and stuff like that. Like, that's cool. Or, you know, for me, because I'm a nerd, I had a really a historical, legendary diamond club reach out and like tell me that they thought something that I did was dope. And like when I come through that I should hit them up and have a beer with them. And I was like, to me, that's the best validation.
That is good.
Like, I would rather have that validation than fucking the prom queen. Like, to me, that gets my dick hard. And I'm sorry if like I'm sitting at your bar with like a hard dick, but I was like, you know, like to have somebody that's of that stature in the community say, you know, hey, we appreciate what you did. Come have a drink. It doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, that's good. That's actually
that is our payment.
That's good. Well, I mean, like I said, that means that you're not disrespecting, you know that culture. No. You know, you're being an ambassador for it in a very positive light that's actually helpful. You know what I'm saying? So, like I said, I found it to be very like meaningful for people that are looking for that, and myself understanding it. Like the podcasts that I do, I've checked out quite a few of them, and even there's some, like, I guess there's such a cast of characters on there because you have like 11 different guys.
Yeah.
Who has like an accent, like a British accent?
All of them. So a professor, he lives in California, but he's from like England originally and stuff like that.
I like this thing guy talk. I can listen to him talk all fucking day.
Yeah.
Talk me to sleep, bro.
Dude,
and talk me. I'm in a bathtub naked and I listen to that guy talk. Bubbles and all.
And he's a dude. I mean, he's been in his club, a long time.
Mm-hmm.
He's held a variety of high-level leadership positions. He's heavily involved in the COC and stuff like that. Like, he's just a guy that if you're able to learn from in club life, that's a dude to take advantage of.
Yeah. Well, he was on that podcast that y'all did when y'all were kind of recapping that Nat Geo thing.
Mm-hmm.
And he had some valid points in there, some really good insights. And I thought it's really cool to have a podcast where you have so many contributors.
Yeah.
To the narrative, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think too, like it helps sometimes. I think when we don't all agree, if we differing viewpoints that we can bring in.
Yeah, it's probably a good thing because I mean, even whenever I have disagreeable people on here, somehow it never comes. The line's never drawn. Does that make sense? Like maybe we'll talk longer and we'll just like, yeah, I kind of agree too, whatever. Like we just give in to each other or whatever, but. A hard line, like man, I don't think that way. I don't like that. I'm not feeling that. I can appreciate that.
Yeah, because I think like when we originally kind of had an idea for this one, whether it was on having you on the Four for the Road or doing it another time, was like, all right, you're going to debate one side of anti clubs, and we'll debate the other side of pro clubs, and we'll go from there. And I feel like it's hard because if you're objective about it and honest about it, I think there's valid points to both sides of it.
Yeah.
And I think at the end of the day, it comes down to being a good ambassador for clubs and being, and helping teach the next generation.
I think this might be a good way, and this is something I've collected over the last couple of years of dealing with club world stuff and outside of it, is you need to be the same guy that you would have to be within a club to also be a great friend, right?
Yeah.
And we all want great friends to do all this bike shit with. The clubs want great members, great brothers, things like that. It's the same concept. If you can't be a good guy on the set of us just being friends and traveling together, you're not. It's the same thing. Like you need be a man of your word. Try to be, punctual. Try to do what you say you're going to do, which is man of your word, I guess. Just. Those type of things, those type of qualities that make you a good man, that's the most important thing. And I think that you're going to fit in either place that you're going to be. If you're a solid man that's receptive to.
Do we have time for more?
We have time for anything.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like you're going down the wrap up. No, I'm sorry,
bro.
20 minutes to 3 hours.
Yeah, it's rookie numbers.
You
need one of these?
No, I need the opener.
This spotted cow ain't too bad, bro.
Yeah, I like it.
He told me he had to take medication to piss, and I got to go on my second piss run.
No. I take medication. It makes me like hydrate more, so I piss more. But probably gonna have a heart attack in your place because I didn't hydrate enough.
I'm fucking leaving you here, bro. This ain't the bike, dude. We're not on bikes right now.
Just tourniquet it. Just tourniquet it. Like, what's wrong with it? Just tourniquet it. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, officer, I got a break in.
That's what I said. He's like, I knocked on the door when I first got here, and he's like, come in. I'm like, fuck that. This is Texas. I'm not just walking in someplace.
Dude, do you know how many people knock on my door every day, and I'm up here, and I'm like, come in. And I don't have to walk down the stairs and go open the door and be like, is this the car stereo shop? Like, no. 2 doors down, motherfucker. I had to walk up the stairs, get back in here.
But they're the only one that's actually labeled, right?
No, I'm not labeled like if you drive.
On the street, though. I mean, like, it says like their name on the door, doesn't it? For the car.
On the street.
So how do you fuck that up?
Well, have you been around society lately? Just numbers and...
You should just tell them yes and then do it and then collect the money.
When people, like... I know I've said this before, but it's so annoying when people say, hey, man, what's your address? I'm just like, that's searchable. If you're coming to my house, that's different. Hey, man, I'm coming to the FASTLIFE garage. Like, Google it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. It's almost like a turn on when someone else fucking like, just like, I know, I'll Google it. I'll figure it out where it's at. Like, I'll just show up. Like, hey, man, you come to the podcast?
When somebody's resourceful, you're like,
yeah,
fucking hard.
Like, God damn, dude. What'd you do that for?
Man. That reminds me of my first wife.
All right. I got to pee now. Converse amongst yourselves.
There's only one spot of cow left. Are you going to take it?
I'll take it.
Oh, no. Zach's going to take it.
Hell yeah.
Need the opener?
Yes, please. I guess I could put the camera on you. If you.
Oh, I said we
don't mind
just
that.
watched him. We just watched him back out. So now we're up to 1448. That's how long people average watching the show.
Yeah, so right now concurrent viewers 33.
That's how many people are currently watching.
Yeah,
And then the average watch time for folks.
for about 15 minutes.
Dude, that's crazy. I can't imagine it's 15 minutes on a YouTube video. That's pretty good.
Yeah. I try not to interrupt when y'all are, when y'all are talking. Every once in a while, I'll be like, I want to say something, but then y'all keep going, so I don't want to interrupt.
Just throw something.
But we were talking about, how women have a, easier way in type of deal. You brought up the chick that got 1 million followers, and I actually know you're talking about Smash Stunts, and she's a badass chick.
Yeah.
And I that's one chick that I feel like absolutely deserves. She's really good at what she does.
And I hope I didn't make it sound like she wasn't deserving of it, but she's cute. She wears good stuff when she's riding, and then I think when you compare it to somebody like Sit Down Steve and the amount of followers maybe he should just put on a G-string. I don't know, but again, it's not. I think it's hard because you're not taking away credit from what a woman can do.
Yeah,
but you're like, look at the disparity in somebody that's doing the exact same thing as you.
There hasn't been many women that I have seen that got pushed to the top for no reason.
Yeah.
There may be a couple, but
And I don't feel like she's somebody that got pushed there for no reason. I think it's just amazing that I feel like Steve should be right there with her.
Oh yeah,
They should
for sure.
each be at 1 million.
For sure, yeah.
I think he just needs to ride more in a G-string.
I'm definitely not getting back in this conversation.
YouTube has already canceled you.
No, it's not YouTube.
I was just saying I don't like to cut in most of the time. I know I have a microphone,
Does
but
Jace
there's-
beat you?
No.
Stick a pencil in his butt.
Dude, blink twice.
You ain't talk anymore. He got a new fucking truck today, bro.
Hell yeah,
Congratulations
dude.
on
Got a
that.
goddamn truck.
My dude's been driving around like a fucking drug dealer for the last couple of years with a fucking busted ass Caprice.
Dude.
It was a Caprice.
Grand Marquis.
Grand Marquis.
Was it like one of the used cop ones? Oh, no, it was a Grand Marquis, not a Caprice.
It wasn't
Yeah, it
used.
was
I mean,
similar.
It wasn't used, right?
Same motor.
I was going to say, where'd you find a new one?
Yeah, same motor, but yeah. Been driving up a piece of shit Grand Marquis. Finally got a truck today.
Nice. On the come up, bro. Congratulations.
Yeah, I be trying.
Okay, then.
Did you start paying more? Like, inflation's a motherfucker.
Man, no. I actually got a fucking, hey, take a post-dated check tonight.
Hey, man, I'm going to write a check, but don't cash it.
Tuesday, next week. No, man. It's, so what do you think, like, you did a big trip this year, right, on the bike? It was going to be bigger, but the fires and shit that kind of, like, subsided you. You were telling me some things about that trip that I thought were real interesting because you've also done some of you went to Hemingway's grave, right?
Yeah, in Idaho. Yeah, in
And
Ketchum.
what do you look for out of a bike trip when you want to take one?
Dude, I'm a fucking nerd, dude. I wanted the Dances with Wolves. So for me,
Jacks on the roof.
so I don't even know how to. I guess I don't even know how to like explain the subject, and I hope I don't offend anybody. But one of my favorite things, so like this year, this past year, whatever, I went to South Dakota 3 times, I think. I did the longer trip. I went to Georgia, and so for me, I have a couple of trips that I love, and one of them is going to Georgia. I love going to the Infantry Museum. And I love just like, so right, especially, I don't know if it's because of COVID or like just the times that you show up there, but there's nobody fucking there. And like, I can just, so there's a graduation field, and then behind the graduation field, there's a bunch of monuments and stuff like that. And for different units or maybe guys you lost. And so there's also a Afghanistan and Iraq memorial that lists all the names of guys lost. And I'll like stop at the gas station. I'll get a beer, and then I'll go there and I'll just sit where some of our guys' names are. And it's just peaceful to me, and I really love that. And I'll do that this year too. I'll do it in like April or May or something like that. And it's something I do every year. And then I like to go to South Dakota, and I've always just felt that fucking Dances with Wolves thing. I'm not a religious guy. I think like, so my mom, she was a big time into religion, and I remember like just falling out of it, like being in Afghanistan and being like, well, I thought like they say God's on their side, but he's like on my side. Like, who's right? Right.
Yeah.
And just kind of like one of those like crisis of faith or whatever. And that doesn't matter. But I fell out of it. But I feel like spiritual connection's a thing, I guess. And South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana has always kind of been one of those areas.
Yeah.
And South Dakota is really easy for me to get to from Wisconsin. And so I went, I think, 3 times this year, and just being able to like see different places. And one of the ones I went to that I think is hard to explain is I went to Pine Ridge, which is like the southern west end of South Dakota, south of Deadwood and all that, Rapid City. And it's
beautiful
obviously
country down there.
It's obviously, it's in the Badlands, or parts of it are. And then, you know, it's an Indian, Native American reservation, or whatever the correct term is. I'm not trying to offend anybody, but, you know, I went there, and I've always had an interest in the history, and my mom's Mexican. Mm-hmm. So I guess I've always had an interest in like Native history and things like that. And so, you know, I went there, and I went to the Wounded Knee Memorial, and I was like, well, this is really going to be cool. And I can't wait to see this, and like, I guess pay respects or just be in the moment, be in the present. And I went, and as soon as I got off my bike, within minutes, like these kids came down. So if you've ever been to the Wounded Knee, there's a sign right there, and then behind the graveyard is actually behind you, and it's on a hill. These kids came down within seconds, minutes, and were like asking me for money. And like, hey, my aunt's coming. Can you hang on a minute? And she's got stuff that like, you know, you can buy from her and stuff. And like these cars pulled up and like put stuff on the hood to like sell to me. And all I had was like cards on me. Like, I didn't have cash on me, or I would have. I was like, I remember like I called my wife, and I was like, hey, this kid kind of looks like he's got feet like me. I got an extra pair of shoes in the car, shit in the bike. Should I offer it to him? Like, I don't know what the fuck the right move here is. And it was just like, I don't know. I just remember being completely moved by like having these people like that were so desolate, like asking me for money, or like, hey, my aunt's coming down to sell you something or whatever. And like, this was what they did. And it just, you know, I know there's a deeper thing on like the plight of Native folks and whatever else. And I just remember like just being there, and I felt like shit, but I also felt like really connected to this place and like riding through the Badlands. And so it was just a weird experience, like to be a part of that. And I remember like calling my wife afterwards, like, I don't know what the fuck, like, am I an asshole? Like, like for coming here, like
that. Honestly, I feel like the plains, and maybe the plains more for me now that I've done. I've been doing a lot more diving into like the history of it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And just the big country of you know, everything on the other side of the Rockies. The vibe out there, man. Like when you stop at a gas station, you're gassing up, and then you can just see for 10 miles to the next mountain range. It's so big out there, and it makes you feel, I guess it's like an ego check. It's kind of a, it just puts life into perspective in a way. Then I feel like it makes you think about things that you never would in certain other parts of the country. And you're more in tune, or you're more receptive to maybe that spirituality that you're talking about, or whatever, too, because it speaks to you in that place. And you know, the Lakota was their, you know, the whole Black Hills was their
like Mount Rushmore.
Sacred ground.
Mount Rushmore is a sacred mountain, I guess, for them. It's not really a mountain, but you know, whatever. It was a sacred gathering place for them. And the Badlands were some of the places where, you know, they started the ghost dance that they were later persecuted for and things like that. And I understand, and I'm sympathetic to that. And then like I'm like, oh well, I guess I'm kind of Native because my mom's Mexican, so like, you know, I have this connection or whatever, but I want to be respectful. And then you drive through places like I took my bike and I went down to White Clay. I don't know if you've ever been to White Clay, Nebraska, which is right on the border. Maybe you probably come through White Clay. It's like right on the border, but it's the first town that sells alcohol. And I mean, there's literally bodies passed out on the sidewalks, like from drinking and stuff like that. And the social, I guess, implications or whatever aspects of it are just like too much. Like, I'm not smart enough to know what the correct solution is or things to, but it's like, it has an impact. And I don't feel any like, I don't have guilt. I don't have any sort of guilt on it, but I'm like, man, what is, you know, I'm impacted by it. And so like I sit in these hills and like I'm able to ride out there and ride to, you know, I went to, you know, Wyoming, and I went to Montana and all these places. I went to Hemingway's grave in Idaho, and think about like what these places must have been like when it was just them roaming, whether it was in the mountains and like, the Nez Perce, which were in Idaho and Montana, or, like you said, the Lakota and the plains, and like, it's a cool area. And I love that. I love going west.
Like I said, man, like that, maybe that, if you've listened to the last couple podcasts, we talked about going east. Like, I love the cities. I love the architecture. I love the history of American history of East. But I love the history of the type of people that settled the West.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, and you don't really, I mean, you get off the road. I mean, I've been fortunate that I've been able to travel off the major highway through New Mexico, through many parts of Colorado, Wyoming, Utah, Arizona. And you just see these towns that are not on the beaten path, and you see how you ask yourself, like, how does life operate here? How does this work? You know what I'm saying? And I don't know, man. Like, I go out. I feel like when I don't spend a lot of time riding through the western, not just California and the coast, but just west. Whether, as soon as I leave Dallas, like out West Texas, it's the same feeling. You know what I'm saying? Like, when I don't do that, I feel like I don't balance myself out enough, and I deal with a lot more issues mentally. You know what I'm saying?
I think, like, when I go east, it's like easy to like see. Like, you talk about like loving riding in New York and stuff like that. Like, I've never ridden in New York, but I've gone to other big cities on the East Coast, Boston, et cetera, things like that. And it's easy to be connected to people and to the place. And the architecture and stuff like that is amazing. And I love the East Coast stuff like that. But when you go west, there's areas that you can get to that are so wide open and expansive. It's almost like you can feel like you're still back in that time. And so you have like this connection, like nothing's changed. Like, maybe people that walked this area in the 1800s are walking the exact same paths that maybe I did, or the 1700s, whatever, because nothing's changed here. There's no infrastructure here. And I like that.
What I love the most is like, so when we go to my house after this, Highway 287 right here, that highway goes all the way into Yellowstone. Mm-hmm. Like, technically, not like straight shot like fucking I-10, you know what I mean? But the 287 highway, like, it goes at a diagonal all the way to Yellowstone.
No.
And so when I was left Sturgis last year, there was a part, I was in the middle of Wyoming, and I jumped on the 287, and I'm like, it's so weird when you see a patch of road and you can, like, you're turning on it, you're turning right, and you're like, turning left is like, my house is less than a half a mile off of this road. You know what I mean? That's a weird feeling when you're fucking 1,500 miles away. You know what I'm saying? But it's perspective. Like, to me, it's dope. And it's like, it's one thing I've been wanting to do a lot. Have you ever looked into like the Eisenhower shit with him doing the travels across the country to create the roads and stuff? Yeah. I just recently found out about that shit within the last couple of months.
And I don't want to get political, but like, people forget how much of a liberal Eisenhower was, and like his social programs and things like that. Like, it's crazy.
I know nothing about all that.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay,
I'll be quiet. Go on.
You're ruining my fucking fantasy.
I'm sorry. Go on.
No, but I just thought it was interesting how. I thought it was interesting how. The things that we love the most about being a biker is the roads that we have and the fact that we can travel on it. And you would think that he would be more of an iconic symbol to our way of life.
No.
You know what I mean? Maybe his policies, I don't know much about them, but that track they did in 1918 or 1921, right around there, where they did a military convoy across the country to try to create or figure out the infrastructure they needed to build, because I guess he was in World War I and he saw the Autobahn or some shit like that. I don't scattered ideas right now.
I mean, so you're talking about the
World War II. I'm sorry.
Yeah. So, but you're right. Like you talk about like Hemingway being buried in Idaho and stuff like that. Like, he saw part of the New Deal. I'm sorry, not the New Deal, but there was a program for World War I vets where they basically like a Job Corps, and they could make roads and shit like that. And so like, it was taking like out of work World War I vets and putting them to work creating infrastructure throughout the United States. And like Hemingway writes about like seeing like these dudes like working on these roads as he would go to like Key West or whatever. But they did it all over the U.S. And so you think about like these dudes like living in these labor camps basically, and creating the roads or the parts of the roads that have become what they are today that we ride on. Shit's pretty cool. It
is pretty cool, and I think that there's a deep dive that I'm looking forward to go down on that because it's kind of an appreciation. I mean, somebody fucking traveled across.
But I feel like you can only get it when you go west.
Yeah, because the west is still, the east is 300 years old, 200 years old. Actually, no, was it 1600?
42 or something like that?
It's like 400 or 500 years old now.
Yeah.
Right? The west is 150 years old.
Yeah.
It's new. It's, if you go out there, it don't look new.
So, I mean,
the West is brutal.
So, one of the guys on the Lewis and Clark expedition, which was 1805 or something like that, was the one that came back and founded Yellowstone.
Okay.
So, I mean, you think 1805 to now, so 200 and some change?
Yeah.
But, I mean, it didn't become a national park right away. But the first, like, guy to, I guess the first white dude to put eyes on Yellowstone would have been part of the Lewis and Clark. So, you're looking at, like, 1810 at the latest. So you're talking about like, over 210 years of the West versus, like you said, the East Coast, in the 1600s when they landed in North Carolina, I guess. And, so yeah, there's a lot of it's still, the infrastructure is not there.
1492? There was another 100 years before they started colonizing.
I don't know. Isn't that who's that fucking guy, that actor? 1492? It's like a movie that he made.
Colin Farrell. Columbus?
No, Colin Farrell.
Was he in that movie? I can't remember.
1492, right?
Okay.
Wasn't that supposed to be a Jermaine Dupri album too? I don't know. All kinds of
Jermaine Dupri.
Oh, it's Atlanta. I don't know. But yeah, dude, the West is fucking cool because there's not a lot of shit there. Yeah. I mean,
well, there's a lot of, like I said, and I've talked about it a lot, but like reading because that's my backyard, being on the cusp of the plains here in Dallas, the plains are boring if you don't know shit about it. Yeah. But when you start to do research, all these towns, they're fucking like, whoa, shit took place in this town. Yeah. Shit took place in that town. It might be a fucking ran down town with a fucking Allsups, which you can get great burritos at, by the way. Hell yeah. Now, but back in the day, or if you don't know the history of this stuff, then there's no draw. It's not New York City. It's not Miami. No. It's not Las Vegas or LA or some shit like that. So by going and doing deep dives in history, it kind of like illuminates all this amazing history on this land where a lot of progress was fought with Indians. You know what I'm saying? Or just...
Are you allowed to call them Indians?
On this podcast, we are. And it's just one of those deals that, like, it's made the travels from Dallas to the Rockies a lot more interesting because now I'm looking at things and places and battle sites and rivers that people spent days trying to figure out how to cross as settlers. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And it changes my perspective of it. Maybe I'm being a little bit of a nerd with this stuff, but...
That's what I like. That's my jam.
I just... I want to appreciate how easy it was for me to ride to the Rockies with 100 years ago or 150 years ago now. Somebody had to fucking do some hard... Like, this was a fucking, like, life or death journey. No. You know what I'm saying?
No.
So I want to appreciate that and show I don't know, just to help people like get a different perspective as to what it is that you're doing when you're doing this stuff. There's a lot of great history. I mean, there's tons and tons of history from Missouri East. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But Missouri West, there's a lot of newer history. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
And I mean, you think about the native tribes that have been there for, I guess, thousands of years. And you think about the Lewis and Clark expedition, you think about the Oregon Trail and all this stuff, like that's all stuff that you can see going west. Yeah, early settlers, the Jamestown in Virginia, or Curritan in North Carolina, or you think about the first Liberty Bell in Pennsylvania, or, the New England colonies. That stuff's cool too. But like the people that wanted to leave the safety net of that after it was established, like they went west and like they forged all of that. And that's for a lot of the Western areas that you go to, like you can still feel a part of that because it's not settled. Like there's not large cities and stuff like that for most of the West until you get to maybe, Washington, Oregon, or whatever.
Yeah. It's fascinating, man. And it's I don't know. It's when you're out there, it still feels like when you're riding on your bike in certain areas, you can easily get a blurred vision of feeling like you're on a horse or in a train. Or
well, you've been to Mexican Hat.
Yeah.
I mean, how many times? It's crazy to me to think that like the Navajo Nation created life in Mexican Hat, in Monument Valley. Like you're like, how the fuck did y'all live here?
Yeah.
What's here?
Nothing.
Yeah. like how did y'all eat a vegetable? Like I don't understand. Like there's
scorpions, bro.
Yeah, there's nothing there. Like it's just like it's like being on Mars.
So I just drank whiskey with scorpions in it. fuck the worm, old weak ass Mexicans doing that shit. I don't know, man. Riding in general, like, but as fascinating as I am with riding west, that same book of intrigue can be opened up for Canada, Mexico, South, Europe. Yeah. I think like a level of success, like another fucking tier of success in life, if I wanted to say that, like the next thing I want to achieve is to be able to ride international, like for real ride international.
I think riding a motorcycle, and I think because like for us, going to different states is awesome. But in some places in Europe, the amount of time that it would take you to, especially like Texas, the amount of time it would take you to travel through Texas, you could go through another country, maybe two.
I want to say crazy. Texas is the size of most of Europe, like most of the mainland of Europe.
Yeah. And to think about all the different countries, not just states, but different countries that you could see in that time. Yeah. I think it would be amazing on a bike.
I want to, man. Like even if it's, I think a lifelong goal of mine, and it's probably because it's the most feasible, is like a complete Pan-American highway.
I've seen that one, that graphic that goes from like Alaska down to the tip of South America.
Yeah. And I wouldn't really give a shit what type of bike I did it on, but just to be able to do that with at least another person, I don't think I want to do it alone. There's something like, I love traveling America alone.
I think you'd want to do it alone.
No, fuck no.
Maybe
I'm dying. I'm like,
maybe not narco country, but
we did.
All right, hang on, I got to pee.
All right, finally.
Damn.
What are we at? 3:05.
Hurry up, we got 30 minutes.
All right. I'm just gonna pee on the stairs.
That's definitely, yeah. I mean, even though I didn't make it all the way to fucking Sturgis, I still loved every bit.
What was the vibe like on the trip? Headed up there.
So basically, it was like before I got to Nebraska, everything looked the same. Like I felt like I was driving through Texas the whole way.
Yeah.
And then you get to Nebraska, and then it's just corn. No, but it's beautiful. Like there's like plains and shit. Everything's like, it's not flat like Texas. It's just like rolling hills. And I loved it. Like I'm definitely going to do a solo trip again, no matter where it's at. Like I want to go by myself, but what you were talking about, I mean, I'd rather do that with somebody than alone.
Yeah. There's this aspect of like when you're somewhere really badass, you want to experience that with somebody. I mean, like I've always said that, like it'd be dope to experience that with my wife, but it'd also be dope to experience that with at least one other friend that's really on that same page,
on the same level. Yeah,
you know what I mean? That appreciates it. Like I don't want to be with the dude where like we're sitting on top of a mountain, like taking in the sunset, looking over Patagonia, and he's like, "Bro, where's the bar at?"
Right.
I'm like, you're not getting while we're here, dude. Like there is no bar. Like we're drinking our pee later. You ever seen Waterworld? So no, there is that aspect where like you want to share certain type of experiences with certain people, I think. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. Like that to me, the riding through different countries and that long way up. I watched it like a couple of months ago, where they rode those live wires up from Argentina all the way up to the LA. Until they got closer to the equator, man, like I was really interested in all those places they went to and how desolate it was. And I guess I like that. I like the fact when things are desolate, people are way more friendly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like in that TV show, like they would like pull up to random houses that are within 50 miles of another one, or I'm just assuming it is, but and the people are like, oh yeah, come on, like they're more like this is a struggle to be here type thing. And I like that vibe. Like I said, I love the vibe of meeting somebody and having a conversation with them and getting to know them and things like that. And what better way to get to know someone was when they invite you into their home or things like that. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's just a good vibe. We're still talking about traveling.
Yeah. I would love to be able to do a Pan America tour in Afghanistan. Like if they could ever like stop.
They have roads?
If they could ever stop like the violence and the insurgent, I guess now it's not an insurgency because we're gone, but if they could ever just stop the fighting, Afghanistan is beautiful. And the majority of the people are amazing. And I know like, I think too much attention is paid to the veteran that's like, oh, fuck ragheads or towel heads or whatever you want to say.
That.
But it's not the truth. Like it's fighting your enemy, you want to demonize them or whatever because it makes it easier to fight them. And the terrorists, maybe the regime of the Taliban or Al Qaeda or ISIS in Iraq or whatever, is a different breed, right? That's something that you can hate, but the general populace of Afghanistan is amazing, and the country of Afghanistan itself, as far as the mountains and it's so. I mean, it's like going back to the 1600s. It's like maybe further than that as far as infrastructure goes. So to like see these roads and have like an adventure bike that could handle it would be amazing. And I see these stories of these guys that like go back to Vietnam, and I think about like, okay, so in 40 years or 50 years, whatever, could we possibly have that with Afghanistan? And I don't know. It's a different.
Well, Vietnam was already an established culture, like with cities and things like that beyond. Like, it seems like Vietnam already had they were at a certain level of humanity.
But I mean, Afghanistan in the 60s and the 50s and maybe in the 70s until like the Soviets and until the Taliban came to power in the 90s after the Soviets and stuff like that, like they had a lot of British influence. They had a lot of Western culture and stuff like that came through places like Kabul, Jalalabad.
Why don't we, as America, why don't we just like take shit over?
Why don't we just stay the fuck home?
Well, I mean, like, if we're gonna spend all these resources fighting there, like, why not be like, all right, look, we're gonna buy it. We this is ours now.
This is America.
We're gonna put a Hilton over here.
We're not gonna make Puerto Rico a state, but fucking Afghanistan's a state.
I'm just saying, like, it makes more sense. Like, it diplomatically, yeah, it's like it's fucked up. We took their country, but at the same time, like, let's go fucking put some fucking America in that bitch. You know what I'm saying?
You know what I think is amazing is like the amount of like maybe politicians or other people that think like they wanted Western influence. Like, oh, we're gonna go there. We're gonna give them democracy. Like,
yeah, what's democracy without fucking Burger King, bro?
Dude, but some of these like they don't want it. Like they want to live tribally. They want to live like a tribal society. They want to live.
We got those here too.
Like,
They're called reservations.
Yeah, they want to live on the reservation. All right, they're a res head or whatever it's called.
It's I don't know, man. It's just
they're the next.
I always think about that Ron White bit where he's talking about just buying Mexico, fixing it up and flipping it. You know what I'm saying? Like make that shit a destination and then sell it back to them for fucking like double the amount or some shit. Yeah. I don't know. Like I don't know. It's just this world's weird now that we live in because you still need very hard men to do really fucking hard things. You know what I'm saying? And going to places like that, like. And seeing all the fucking life that it's taken and seeing what it does to their economy, their way of life.
Yeah, but Toby Keith will come over like once a year and sing you a song. That's badass.
You would think like the whole point, like if we're gonna do all this, like why not just like make this a part of America and actually give them the resources that we have as Americans and establish some type of, community / aspect there. Like we fucking it could be a new fucking Western frontier for us. Like, hey, go to fucking Afghanistan, deal with the insurgents and It's the same thing as like the America giving us settlers going west to deal with the Indians. No. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that it's a different country, but I think that the people there, they don't want and they don't embrace.
We'll just send the liberals there. They're not infringing on their fucking religions. Like, hey, he, she, there.
Yeah.
You know, you do you.
Which is crazy. Like I remember being in these villages and like you didn't talk to women. I mean, I didn't know how to talk to them anyway, but like you didn't converse with them because that could be taken as an offense, as an affront. And like, yeah. And what's that movie, Jarhead or whatever? Jarhead, he's hanging out the back of the Humvee. He's like,
yeah.
Most of us didn't do that kind of shit. Like you talk to the village elder, the tribal elder, whatever the case may be, or there was a designated kind of point of contact or whatever. And I think that it's just a different way of life. And I think that in America, we're so like, we feel that like whatever opinion or idea we have is valid, and it is, because nobody's going to tell us that it's not. And we can literally run with any idea that we want because we have so much freedom here, I guess. Whatever. Like, there's a lot of things that aren't free, but we have so much freedom that we can just like run with it. I'm like, hey, this sounds like a really great idea. I'm gonna try and make this a way of life, or I'm gonna try and make this a thing, right? Yeah. And in other countries, they're like, they would shoot you. Like, they would just be like, we're gonna shoot you.
Wild West.
We're gonna stone you, or whatever the case.
Wild West.
And I feel like people don't appreciate what we have here.
Oh, definitely nobody appreciate this because we don't even fucking know what this is anymore. I mean, like, people that, like yourself, I would imagine that you have a clear and present idea of what you're going over there to fight for, because when you're there, you witness firsthand the way people live. No. The only thing that you fight for is your buddy to your left and your right. And anybody, you can fight me in the comments. No, I'll give you my address. But the only thing that you fight for is the dude to your left and your right. I don't give a fuck about nation building. I don't give a fuck about helping Iraq or Afghanistan. I don't want to see kids suffer. Trying to get paid. Yeah, I don't want to see kids suffer any more than the next person or whatever the case may be. But you're not on a righteous mission. If you're going, like if we train together, we live together, we ate together, and you're going, I'm fucking going. Yeah. And if you're going out on patrol, then I'm not going to fucking miss it. I'm going to go too. Like, if you're going, I'm going. And that's all it is. That's at the end of the day, that's all it fucking is. If you're going, I'm going. Do you think that, like, taking away, like, being secluded in a place like that to where you have very limited connection to home, but you have this very what's the word I'm looking for? It's not, fuck. When you're like, I imagine how zoned in I can be and focused on my friends when I'm on a bike trip. Yeah. And so I just assume that, like, maybe when you're deployed with some friends or people that you've become brothers and friends with, right? Like, you're so connected to them and so aware because you don't have all the distractions of life. You know what I mean? Work, taxes, fucking, job placement, like your place in life, if your wife's happy or not, your kids love you. I got caught beating off in the fucking computer room once by my platoon sergeant. Did he watch? Probably. I would have. Yeah. I was like, because I was mortars, and so for mortars, like, you had a rotation, so you would either be like on, like, what we call, like, maybe like a cop defense or something like that. So you'd man the mortar pit at night, and then whoever wasn't doing that would be like up for patrols in the morning or whatever, or whenever patrols were night. If you have like an air assault or something like that, you would have enough people in the mortar platoon. Mm-hmm. They would break up these jobs. So you would rotate between being on, like, cop defense at night, or maybe doing patrols during the day, or if you were doing a mission at night, or whatever the case may be. And I remember I was on like the night watch or whatever for the mortar pit, and I went into the computer. It was basically like a fucking hut that had like 3 computers in it or some shit like that. And I was like talking to this girl back home that I was like dating or whatever it was. And I was like jerking my dick, and my platoon sergeant walks in, and he didn't say anything for a minute. He's like, "What in the fuck are you doing?" And he's like right behind me, and I was like, "I'm
beating my dick, bro. Can I get a minute? I was like, it's like 1 a.m. There's nobody else in here.
Yeah.
Can I get a minute? But
what do you think the record is for how many cum shots some dudes had in the military?
I don't think that I was the first person to nut in that chair, and I don't think I was
for sure. But like, do you think
I was the last person?
You know, like a bored dude on a Saturday and nobody's at home, like he might be able to fucking crank like 3 out.
Yeah, dude. I remember like I remember like coming home and like I was married the first time and like it was Christmas. And I was married and like I was having like a dirty chat with my wife, but I was at home for Christmas, like visiting family, or she didn't come with me or whatever. And like it's like, let me see that dick. So I was like beating off or whatever for a little bit for a video, and I accidentally like sent it out to my like entire family.
Oh, that was on your most recent
podcast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I just, like my grandma got it. I'm pretty sure that's why she's dead. I don't know. My uncle was like, dude, what the fuck? Where's the rest of it? I was like, no.
Where's the other angle of her?
He's like, I don't remember that when you were little.
Where'd all that energy come from? Yeah, I don't know, man. I always wondered, like, it's funny because you mentioned Jarhead the other, and I've had a hard time watching like military movies like that because that was one of the things that probably when that movie came out, when I watched that scene where that dude's wife sent him the video of her getting fucked by the neighbor or some shit. Like, man, like I was way too insecure of a man at that time to be away from my chick and be confident in myself. You know what I mean?
Nah, dude, that's the most accurate part of that movie. No, and that's a really good movie, I feel like, because like you see the buildup, and that's what war is. Like anybody that tells you that they were in a gunfight 24/7, I don't know, unless they were like some kind of CIA agent, they're fucking lying to you. Like there's a lot of boredom with spikes of really cool adrenaline and then back to a lot of boredom. And guys would all the time get divorced. I remember I wasn't in Afghanistan, but I was in Germany, and I got divorce papers in the fucking mail. And I was like, what? Like this is 2010. Like we have technology. You could email me. You can call me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, what the fuck? Why am I getting these now? And I remember like that was like the most accurate part was like seeing your chick do something dirty. I feel like that happened to a lot of guys.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, man, because like being that far away. I mean, once I turned 30, I gained like this confidence that like.
Oh, is that guy's name really Cock?
Adcock.
Whatever, Cock.
I feel like once I turned 30, like a switch went off, and like all this very insecure adolescence of like me in relationships.
Yeah. How long have you been married now?
I've been married since 16. I've been with my wife since 14. Mm-hmm. So I think this year is our 8th year of being in a relationship or something like that. But before that, I mean, I've been in long relationships my whole life. But the thing is that like I struggle so much with dealing with insecurity in my relationships prior to this. And then once I finally kind of like became the man that I am or whatever, or gain the confidence of being a man that can go out and like, fuck that bitch, I'll find another one, or, you know, whatever the case would be, or I'll meet another woman or something like that. Once I got to that point, like my whole fucking life, my career took off because less of my day was worried about like some bitch that I was trying to worry if she was cheating on me or not.
Yeah.
I was cheating on her too, but at the same time,
I cheated first. Fuck that bitch.
yeah, like just in case.
Yeah. I remember
Yahtzee.
So my oldest boy is 13, and you know, he came to me like last summer and was asking questions about my relationship with his mom, and he's like, you know, but you know, you made this. Why did you? I don't remember how he said it, but he's like, why did you cheat on mom with this other girl and make this baby? And I was like, that's a lie. I was not with your mom when I made that baby.
Well, that's the same thing. Like I'm going to do this trip. I was telling you I was taking this bike to New York at the end of the month, and I'm taking my son. And this is going to be like, hopefully, my son's turning 12 this year. Oh. I'm really hoping that this could be a really great bonding experience because I fought like fucking hell to stay with my son's mom. Like I did shit that but I was willing to succumb to being a guy that I would never, ever in my life now to be with this cunt, right? But his mom, you know, just didn't see the value in me and wanted to go be with other people, right? And so I really wanted to be there for my son. My dad wasn't there for me, like not the.
I can relate.
You know what I mean? He was there, but he was not like he wasn't in the house, right?
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to be there for my son. Like my daughter and we're fucking tight. Like my daughter I used to pick her up from school. She lived with me for most of her life. I pick her up from school and we would go to the local lowrider shop and I'd airbrush cars all night while she was hanging out, like watching and talking to me. Like we have a relationship that my son and I will never have.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But with my son, it's like he's a mama's boy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And here I am. I'm trying to show him all these cool things or introduce him to this stuff. And that's like I'm constantly fighting with the mom's influence.
Yeah.
Who has since become resentful because she realized she fucked up and she should have stayed with me because, you know, whatever. Like I'm a great dude. I'm really great.
You got 50,000 Instagram followers.
Yeah. I'm responsible. You know what I'm saying? But you know what I mean? Like it's like now that I have this son and like I really want to, you know, I wish every day I woke up my son was in my house.
Yeah.
It'd be I don't think people realize how hard it is to be a parent when, you know, your kid is not in your household.
Yeah.
And you have to move on and meet a new wife.
Well, and I think it's hard too trying to explain different, and maybe that's not the right terminology, not explaining, but when you're dealing with two different sets of influences, like I come from not having a dad, and my mom was Mexican, so she was a dick, but like coming from a set where
get tamales over.
Yeah, dude. Did you know you're supposed to take the husks off of those first before you eat them? I was like 10 before I figured that shit out. She said, "Let me do it." She said, "Whatever, fucking retard."
Did you eat the banana whole, dude?
She's like, "Whatever, retard. You eat all you want." But
still white in him.
She's like, "We're gonna get that dad out of you." But like, you know, I remember like coming from it dates me, makes me sound like a boomer, but like, you know, kids were seen and not heard.
Yeah.
And so my son, you know, I respect his wanting to know things, but he's like 13, and I come from a place where I'm not going to tell him shit because he's 13 and he doesn't need to know anything. Like he just needs to be a kid.
Yeah.
And his mom tells him everything and like treats him like
an
adult. And so he comes to my house and he's like, "I'm going to go to the gas station and get a Red Bull." I'm like, "The fuck you are?" Like, not in my house. And so then it creates, so like the entire time he's here for the summer, we get him in the summer, like he's miserable because the rules here are different than they are at his mom's house and stuff like that. And it's like, well, I can't tell you that I think your mom's a bitch because then he's going to go back, and I just don't want to be that influence on him. Like, I don't want to be like, "Hey man, your mom's a bitch and the way she's raising you is fucking wrong." Because that's what he's going to resent me for saying that, even if I'm right, he's going to resent me for bringing that topic up.
Yeah.
So I had to find a way to work within that. I remember like we took him on a family vacation, went to northern Wisconsin, and he got mad at me for something, and he like walked like half a mile down the road and like sat across the street in like a wood line. And like, I had to like trying to find him. He's 13 now, so I guess that was a couple of years ago. So I was 11. And I
thought I had problems.
I was like, "You got to be fucking kidding me! Like, I got to go fucking find this kid." And I was like, you know, trying to find that balance between. Like,
better watch out. Your son's how he's gonna be an Antifa here pretty soon. No, I understand your pain, man, because it's really tough because like I've got two kids with two different moms, and I thought my daughter's mom was gonna be the biggest cunt in my life.
Yeah,
she ended up being the lesser of the evils, right? My son's mom, who is a fucking really great mom, is the biggest cunt I've ever dealt with. No, like she completely looks at me like lesser human, like I'm an idiot, like all this type of shit and those type of things. And so as I have a son, like I have a boy, like I want to teach this kid how to be a man. Yeah. You know, I want to teach him how to look into himself and find things and be inspired and try things. Just a lot of shit. Like she doesn't co-parent. She doesn't ask me like, "Hey, you know, I'm thinking about homeschooling our son." She goes, "Hey, I decided to pull him out of school, so he's being homeschooled now." I'm like, the fuck? Like,
Yeah, you don't get to make those decisions together.
You know, it's like last summer, like he hasn't learned how to swim. He's been scared of water forever, and we took him to a watering hole in Austin and then a swimming pool, and we kind of forced him, like taught him, like, look, you're gonna swim, motherfucker. You're gonna go underwater.
I feel like that's racial.
Yeah, it is a little bit. And so
I'm gonna put you underwater.
So he actually starts doing it well, and then he goes back to his mom's house, and then 2 weeks later, she goes, "Hey, I put him in swimming lessons. That's an extra $150 a week."
No.
And I'm like, "Bitch, like that ain't how this works. Like, I'm trying to teach him how to swim already.
Yeah.
Like, why are you gonna charge me now?"
Dude, I feel bad, but like I look forward to the day that like my child support ends, and I shouldn't look at it like that. But I'm like, dude, I pay $1,000, almost $1,100 a month. I was like, you know what I could do to my bike with $1,100 a month?
I don't think that people realize. Now, to be fair, like there are a lot of dudes that just are piece of shits, right?
Yeah, I mean,
but it's not across the board. I think women need to, like, what happened with me recently.
Stop letting losers come in you like me.
I did tell her once, like, you should have fucked a richer dude.
Should have made me wear a condom. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
But one of the biggest things that I've always tried to, or I wholeheartedly, and this is something I dealt with my daughter's mom. My daughter's mom had a rough patch in her life. Like, she was not good.
Yeah.
But
was she a whore?
Probably.
I have a kid. So my daughter's mom was a whore. Is a whore. I don't know. I actually have my oldest boy asked me why his sister was made. I mean, it wasn't like verbatim like this, but he basically asked me why his sister was made in a gangbang. And I remember being on my front porch having that conversation. It's the most awkward shit I've ever had to do in my life. And like, why? So I have two boys. I have two boys and a daughter, but I don't have a relationship with the daughter. So when I was in the Navy, I had gotten into a little bit of trouble and I got arrested and I had to go to jail. And county lockup, nothing serious. And so I went to the chief on the boat and he was like, "Hey man, what we're going to do is we're just going to put you on leave. All right? Don't tell anybody. Shut the fuck up. It's 30 days." So I had a 30-day sentence and like if you do good behavior, it'll be 21 days. So we'll just charge you to leave. I was like, "All right, cool." So I went to jail. I got out, and I was like living in this apartment. It was like me and like you don't want to live on the boat, right? So I was like me and like 6 dudes like splitting the rent on an apartment, like air mattresses just everywhere. I'm like, "Hey man, welcome home. You're through week fucking jail stint. What do you want to do? Do you want to like pay rent or get groceries or whatever?" Like, why don't we have a party and invite some whores and have a gangbang? And that's exactly what we did. So there was this girl that we knew was a whore. She like fucked everybody on base, on the ship. And so we invited her, and she was like, we ran a train on her that night. And apparently, Apparently, I missed the memo. Don't come in the whore for the gangbang. I missed that one. Apparently, that's a thing that dudes know. Nobody told me. And I remember, like, there was probably 6 of us, and it by the end of the session, it smelled so bad that my buddy had a full-face Shoei helmet on. I don't know why they don't sponsor us. But he had a full-face helmet on with the mask down, and he went last. And he's, like, pumping her with this fucking helmet on. And it's all I can remember from this thing. And, like, a year went by, and all of a sudden, I was, like, on the ship, and I got this summons. I had to go see my chief. And he's like, "Hey man, the Virginia Beach sheriff or whatever came by, and we got this summons for you, or not Virginia Beach, whatever the county is. This sheriff came by. We got the summons for you. You got to go to court. It's about a DNA. It's about a paternity test." It's like, "That shit ain't mine. Whatever." So I went to do the paternity test, and then we all had a court date. So there was like 7 of us. So she was married. She had a boyfriend that was a Marine, and then there was like the 6 of us that participated. So I guess there was like 8. There was like 8 of us. And so we all
dudes out there like, who wants to be a millionaire?
So we all had to go to court, and I don't know why we all didn't just get like the one lawyer, but we all got different lawyers. And I guess the judge, this should, I don't know, we're over 3 hours.
No, we're good. We keep it rolling.
This should make this. Whatever editing you do, make this. But so the judge, I guess, had a sense of humor because he started eliminating guys like one at a time. And I don't know if he had a sense of humor. Or that's just the way the paperwork came. Yeah,
you are not the father.
So he had all the test results in his hand, and rather than just saying, "Hey, you're the father," he started dismissing everybody. So finally, it's like, and I don't know why, but I was so young. I brought my parents down, like my mom and my stepdad were there. Yeah. I was like for support, and I was like looking at my mom, and
you are the weakest.
So my mom already knows. Like I might have potentially. My mom's like looking at me, understanding. Like I might have made a kid. I might have. Your first grandchild might have come from a drunken gangbang after I got out of jail. Like I don't know what to tell you. And so I remember like it was just me and this other guy, and she was there. The mom was there with the baby, who's now like, because she waited so long because she thought her relationship was gonna work. She didn't really come looking for the dad until her relationship ended. So it's me and this other guy, we're looking at this kid. My mom's looking at this kid who looks fucking just like me, and the other guy's black, and I was like, "Fuck, dude." I was like, "God damn it."
So let me ask you this. This might be a little bit touchy, but how does it feel having a kid that you don't get to have a relationship with in this situation?
So I guess, does it make me sound like an asshole if I say I'm fine with it? So I tried. In the beginning, I tried to have a relationship, and the mom and myself, not just her, but myself, we weren't mature enough to, like, every time we were, like, in proximity, to not sling mud at each other, to just not, like, be petty. And it kept going for, like, a couple years. It was just that way. And finally, I was like, you know what? I'm just done. Here's your money. I'll send the check every month. I don't want anything to do with you or her. And I was like, you know what? When she's older, when she's 16, 18, maybe whatever, and she wants to, if she decides that she wants to establish a relationship, I'm totally open to that. And if she has questions, I'll answer her questions. I feel like I made the best possible decision for the family that I had and have, and I made the best possible. I don't think a kid should grow up like, oh, your mom's a bitch. No, your dad's an asshole. Whatever. Like, fine. Think one way or the other, and don't have these competing influences. And I just wasn't mature enough at the time, and her mom certainly wasn't, to not be that, just fucking be like that. So I walked away. And so I've had no contact with her or anything like that. And she's, I guess, 14 now. So in the next couple of years, if she wants to, it's up to her. And if she doesn't, I totally understand that too. I made the best possible decision that I thought I could. And if she hates it, I understand that, and if she wants to establish a relationship, we will.
Yeah, it's always tough, man. Like, I've always said, like, you know, my daughter turned 20 yesterday, and she's had her issues with, like, you know, just mentally. Yeah. You know what I mean? She grew up in a social media age, things like that, and I'm sure that, like, my upbringing with her didn't help. You know what I mean? Like, back and forth between her mom's house and my house over her entire childhood. But she's it's really weird because, like, I think as parents, like, you never realize, like, that point where you're still trying to figure yourself out, and you're also trying to teach somebody else how to be a fucking adult. And you're like, yeah, dude, like, everything I told you 5 years ago is fuck, dude. That did not work out. You know what I'm saying? But the other thing is, like, I don't know, like, I don't feel like I have all the answers at all, but I do think I'm more open and more easy to talk to, and more willing to help my kids navigate life than my dad was. 100%.
I hope I am.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's kind of the weird thing. It's like, you know, when like, you talk to people that maybe their father passed, or their family member passed. It's kind of a weird thing where I don't feel like it's fair to say this, but maybe, like, you have an immediate closure of the fact that, like, you can't get the answer. Yeah. You know, but it's almost like when you have a piece of shit parent that is still around, that is just, you know. And the worst part is when they're still around and they think they they think they hold value in your life, and they come around like, I'm your father, you know that? And I'm like, bro, like, who the, like, you know what I mean? Like, you just want to, like, ring a motherfucker. Like, it would be way cooler if you were like my father, but you were you're a fucking Vietnam veteran, and you had a drunk problem at the VFW. I would be proud of that. But you're just a fucking dude that did coke in the 80s. Yeah. That's it. Like, you've never made anything else happen in your life.
2020s.
I don't know, man. It's a tough one, man, because I don't know. Like I said, I feel like we're all trying to still figure out ourselves. Yeah. You know, I've seen memes it sucks that we have to refer to life goals as memes these days, but I've seen memes where it's like it's talking about how like you know, a lot of us are still figuring out life as we're trying to raise kids. No. And maybe our parents were too. It's just there was no internet to make a meme about it. You know what I mean?
No. But I mean, like a lot of us came like, I mean, my dad was absent, but you know, it came from like parents who smoked in the house, drank in the house, whatever. Like I don't do any of that in front of my youngest. Like he doesn't see any of that. And I don't know if that's going to like prevent him from doing anything.
My son gets me beers.
I don't know if that's going to prevent him from doing anything, but it's just like, you know, I remember seeing what I saw when I was growing up and and I'm trying to do the opposite for him, and it'll either work or it'll backfire, whatever. But, you know, I've got 3 kids and 2 of them I take care of. two of them I do well.
In 2018, me and my daughter we jumped, I had a van at the time. We were taking a paint job that I did up to NorCal, to a shop I did work with, and I took her Phoenix, LA, up the entire coast, NorCal, and then home. And it was tough for me because, like, you know, my daughter lived with me from when she was 3 till she was about 11. And then she went to live with her mom. And so I just knew this young woman, right? This child, right? Yeah. She goes to live with her mom. And then she kind of starts to become this young adult. And so this was it was awkward, but I wouldn't trade it for the world. A chance to get to know my daughter and where she's at in life. She was it was like the year before she graduated, because I think it was 18. She graduated she graduated in 20, and that didn't work out too well for her because of COVID. So she didn't have a graduation, so she was a sophomore, I think, or yeah, whatever. Irrelevant. So we got a chance to go on this trip and like kind of bond and kind of talk, and I get to know where she's at in life, and I get to show her a little bit of the world. And that's the one thing I wanted to show my kids that I didn't get shown growing up, is how big the world is outside of this place that we live in. No. You know what I mean? And you probably got to experience that with even beyond what I have with the military. You can get trapped into thinking that this is it. You know what I mean? And to be an 18, 19, 20-year-old kid, like trying to find the chick or the dude to kind of struggle through this life together, and you're just in this little fucking town of the outskirts of Dallas, like it's not it, man. Like fucking hold out for a better life. Hold out. Like just call on this one. You know what I mean? Just walk away and go. You know, I've always said that, like, at 20 years old, when you don't have any responsibility and the biggest bill you have in your life is your phone bill, go fucking try to travel in some kind of way. Like, get a group of friends and be like, hey, let's put our resources together and go see this fucking country or something like that.
I would say, like, either like have a kid when you're like 16, so you can get out of the way by the time you're in your 30s and be done with it, or wait until your 30s and then have a kid. I don't know, but like you know, there's so much to like see and experience when you're still in that 20 stage to create you as what you're going to be like as an adult. Like what I'm at in my 30s now is not what I was in my 20s, and I'm a better parent now than I was then, which, I mean,
I would say I'm a better. I'm more resourceful as a parent now. Like I have more to offer, but dare I say this? I think my daughter is always going to do better than my son. Like I feel like she got a dose of reality versus my son's getting a dose of. He's being cuddled, or whatever you say.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's not so much me. Like, I want to fucking force him to do things. But he's heavily growing up in a world where, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I don't want to discredit him. I love him to death, and I'm very excited to see what kind of man he grows up to be.
Yeah.
But, man, I hate putting the bad vibes out there, but I wonder...
This whole podcast is taking a downturn since the gangbang.
Well, it's fucking life, motherfucker. You gangbanged a chick, and now we're talking about this type of shit.
I mean, it's kind of like, I'm going to mess up this reference, but I heard it on Joe Rogan. You know, hard times create hard men.
No. Yeah.
Hard men create easy times. Easy times create
Soft men.
soft men. That.
I was,
And
I
soft
was
men
definitely
create
hard.
hard
I was
times.
definitely
Hard
hard when I
times.
came in her. That's hard.
Yeah.
Well, that is one of the things. It's like his mom, my son's mom, is very well. She was like when I started doing this, the day that I became a custom painter in 2004, I met her, right? And so she was kind of with me throughout all these things up until 2010, whenever we had my son.
Yeah.
And then as soon as we had a kid, like she had a purpose in life after that, and I was not good enough, and therefore, we split. But my son, like, when you have a son, it's kind of a weird thing. Like I'm fortunate to have a daughter and a son, right? And as a son, like you want that whole, like you see all the portrayals of being a father to a young man in media and the movies and whatnot, and you're like, man, I just wish my son cared about the things that I did, because I could show him so much if it's within my wheelhouse. But then you get those guys that are like super hard men, like fucking swinging axes and fucking, starting fires with their knuckles and shit. You know what I'm saying? And then those kids become gay. Like that's their son. It's like the hardest men are the gay sons. They're like, I just accept you. Like, I don't know how to be a father to you.
Yeah.
And I don't think my son's gay or anything like that. I just
should have put that out there. I don't think that. I'm just saying.
But like, it's just a weird thing. It's like, like it would be inspiring me if my son was interested in me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If he was interested in anything in my life, like honestly, when we built this studio, my son was like, because he was all into YouTube and doing YouTube videos at the time. He was like 9 or 10. He was like, this is cool. And I was like,
yeah, right?
like so stoked that he found interest in this.
Yeah.
And since then, he doesn't give a fuck about it now. But,
Like, for a while, my youngest, so I guess out of all of, the 3 kids, I guess I have the best relationship with my youngest because we live together and we have that relationship. But for a while, I don't even remember how, but he got into the military, but he got into like Navy SEALs, and he's 8, and he was like loving Navy SEAls. And I was like, well, they're gay, but fine, whatever. Yeah, go do that. No. And I remember just like trying to, he's out of it now, but I remember like trying to like nurture that. Whatever, dude. Like, yeah, if you're interested in the military, that I have experience in that, like, it's a great opportunity. Like, there's some things that you want to stay away from, but you can learn a lot. You can travel for free. You can do all these amazing benefits and all this other stuff. Like, yeah, totally. I encourage it. It's a great path. Now, but I mean, he was fucking 8 at the time. Now he's into like Ninjago, or he's outgrown that. I don't know what Fortnite or whatever the shit.
Yeah,
that's
Fortnite's for sure. Yeah.
So, but trying to encourage him to find something that he's interested in that you can relate to. Like, I don't fucking play Fortnite. I don't give a shit about Fortnite. Like, do you want to play Madden? He's like, are you gay? It's like a bunch of men hitting each other.
It's just men hitting each other.
So let me get this straight, Dad. You wanna. So you're 36 and you want to play as a 25-year-old Patrick Mahomes. And I'm like, yeah, dude, that's right. You're gay.
Yeah, but we're not killing each other. We just hit him.
Yeah, he's like, so you're going to play as another man and negotiate his contract so we can stay on your team who's 10 years younger than you? I was like, what? That's right. I'm going to go back to Call of Duty, faggot.
Yeah, it's a tough one, man. Like, really thought I'd turn that off.
Damn.
I don't know if people
It took a long time to kick on, though.
I think I did turn it off. I think it's just like low. It's a compressor. But yeah, honestly, man, I've had a great time. This is fun.
Yeah.
We waited. I've hung out with you 3 separate times.
I didn't think this was going to go almost
I told
4
you
hours.
it would. I told you.
I was like, it was like a 2-hour podcast. It'd be good.
You thought you can get out of here doing a 2-hour podcast, but we broke the seal.
After all these beers, all right. So this club sucks absolute no.
I think what you guys are doing, to wrap this up, I think what you guys are doing with your writing and the collective writing that is with all of you at 4 for the Road, I think it's awesome. And it's much needed, and it's a place for people to find information about this world that is not readily available, or to find opinions. Mm-hmm. to find perspective in a sense. And, Ken, the other guys involved, y'all are doing a good job. I mean, I've seen the podcast grow. Seeing it on the charts was awesome. You know what I mean? For me too, like, oh fuck, that's my dudes. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, I'm stoked for you guys because you did the one rule that is important in podcasting is that's being consistent, and you've done that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So kudos to that. Cheers. Being bikers.
How are you not Montucky sponsored yet?
I have been. We've already talked about this on other podcasts. Montucky has given us beer before, but it's not worth the hassle because the beer's so cheap.
That's a good point.
Like we have to drive the north.
There's no House of Harley.
We're not famous enough within the beer culture, even though we definitely put somebody in the Montucky band camp through college. We have for sure. Oh, yeah. The thing with Montucky is like I don't know. I feel like one of their owners is like fucks with us. They dig what we're doing, but I feel like their marketing department is like, no. These guys say fag.
Yeah, that's true.
And so at that point, like they got gay pride cans, which we also drink on the podcast. So like, we're gay pride appropriate. What's the word?
I think we said raghead earlier too. So I mean, we're covering all the bases.
Yeah, I think that they the only thing I care about, and this is the ego thing. So get ready. When we were in Milwaukee, we saw Montucky's everywhere we went.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
And I just want everybody to know, you're welcome.
That probably is. Like there wasn't Montucky's 2 years ago, whatever it was. There definitely wasn't. I'd say it's definitely been a blow up. And who's been leading that? Also,
that guy over there.
Also,
that guy right over there. You see him?
Yeah.
He's right over there. He's right over there.
Also, before we go, speaking of House of Harley, Alex or Tommy, who's your favorite? Or J-Rock, I mean.
Well, J-Rock's too soft-spoken. He can't. I don't think. Here's the deal.
Or
That's
Kevin.
a good one.
Or Kevin.
I don't know. I think that. I love this question.
Here goes the sponsorship.
I love this question.
Yeah.
No, it's not a sponsorship. Fuck them.
Which one? All right, marry one, fuck one, kill one.
Oh. I'm definitely marrying Tommy because we have such a great relationship.
Sure.
But it's the fuck or kill with Alex or J-Rock. That's the hard one.
Dude, Alex looks young. He's got good skin. I think I'm fucking him.
Yeah, but J-Rock.
I hope this makes it in.
J-Rock has done me so many solids. I don't know. You know what? You got a coin? Does anybody have a quarter?
I don't.
Watch out.
I got a bottle cap.
Wow, this got serious. I bet he's not even listening anymore. He's not one of the 26. He's not one of the 26 concurrent viewers. He's got to
go to work. Yeah. All right, so heads J-Rock.
No, for who you're fucking.
I'm fucking J-Rock. Right.
Oh, so you already determined you're fucking J-Rock.
I'm fucking J-Rock. Tells I'm killing J-Rock.
Look, so either way, it's J-Rock.
Well, no, if I'm fucking J-Rock, then I'm killing Alex.
What about Tommy?
No, I've already told you I'm marrying Tommy.
Okay, that's a good point.
Like, yes.
Sorry.
Dude,
I'm sorry I blew up.
I'm not going to fucking turn that fucking cash cow around. You ready?
For J-Rock.
You got it?
Yep.
Heads. What does that mean? I don't remember.
Fuck it. We're fucking him.
I think I'm fucking J-Rock and killing Alex. I'm sorry, Alex. You've been a great friend.
Oh, man.
Thank you for,
If it's any consolation, I'll still fuck Alex. I don't know.
House of Harley's good. They're good guys. A lot of dealerships can learn from them, and I think they're starting to take notice. Have you enjoyed seeing like all the new the bikes coming out? Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, oh, Oh no.
I'm not. They're nothing. All the new ones so far that have been released. So the ones that they're keeping under wraps is the one everybody's waiting on to see what they do with the fairing or what it looks like in a non-digitalized picture. Mm-hmm. But I feel like
listening.
I feel like all the other bikes so far they're not impressive.
There's nothing changing, but they're releasing.
They brought white back. They brought or pearl back or whatever the fuck.
They're releasing the performance bagger. We're almost at 4 hours, right?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. All right. We're gonna wrap this one up.
How, you're not gonna finish that?
You want to do some Patreon?
You're not gonna finish that?
You want to do some Patreon?
No.
Come on, dude.
I gotta be up in like 5 hours.
No, you don't. You don't get to fucking leave the house till 7. It's 10 o'clock.
I'll do one more beer. Does that work?
All right, let's do that. Let's cut the live, and then we'll just do a record for the Patreon after I pee, because But I do want to talk about the new bike.
Okay, is that a Patreon? Why didn't Kyle come and draw a dick on me? Or where's Jaden? I
don't know.
I only came for Jaden. On.
Yeah, I mean we definitely wouldn't have been able to hear as much as we did about you if anybody else was here. Not that it would have been a bad thing, but
So is this still live now, or so like will you cut it off for the Patreon or what?
I haven't cut it off yet.
Oh. I'll tell you what though, that Mr. The Days,
dude,
he's in there.
Yeah, he is.
He said he works third shift though or some shit.
Yeah.
He's also buying an autism helmet. Good for him.
Well, I think that's what his idea would be, to get a helmet painted.
Oh, okay. It's for his kid. All right, that's different. That's good.
I'm not sure if you wanted me to cut it right now or till he gets back.
I don't know. Gonna make mad 29 viewers.
Hello, everyone. I'm about to go home and beat off.
You good?
You want to cut it?
Yeah, I'm ready. I want to go to Patreon. I'm
I'm
not done with you.
So the live guys can't see the Patreon?
No, they can't. They have to go to be on our Patreon.
I'm sorry, Mr. Days. Well, you know what? You get a lot of good comments. You probably on the Patreon.
Losers.
Oh, so we're not going to be able to see the comments.